Mic check. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. Wherever you are, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Top Hat was a good guess. That was a pretty good guess. I hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you got outside. I know a lot of you guys were out protesting at the No Kings protest, so well done to all of you. Last I heard, like 11 million, 12 million people. That's pretty fucking cool. Republicans still trotting out there. I've seen a lot of videos from Republicans like trying to clap back. Like, how'd those No Kings protests go? I think they went fine. I think they went fine. I don't think anybody at this point has a defense anymore. You can just call Trump a king or a fascist or an authoritarian, whatever you want to call him. That's what we're protesting. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
It was busy.
Busy.
I had to deal with stuff
Hell
with
yeah.
my vehicle.
Oh.
My air conditioning decided to just stop working in my car, so that's fine. Where I live,
perfect.
It's not as hot as Arizona, but it's right up there in Satan's asshole hot. So.
Yeah, where are you guys at temperature-wise these days?
I think we're supposed to be like low 80s right now. I think that's what it is currently, but it's just too hot not to have air.
I think that's what we're at today. Like we might get to 90 maybe today. So I'm looking at the week. What does the week look like? It's going to rain tomorrow and Wednesday. I got rain coming.
I saw something about some rain possibly too, which, as most people know, I do love the rain. It makes me happy. So I take
it back. I had accidentally switched to St. George, Utah. No rain this week. Never mind. We'll have a little bit of cloud cover. I'm going to have a nice week. 80s all week. Oh yeah, this is going to be good.
Look how far you've come along with the small talk toleration.
Look at growth, you know?
Yeah.
It's growth.
So proud.
I think what happened, to be honest, is that so much stuff is going on that I fucking hate that I don't want to jump right into it. Honestly, like putting together these shows, it's not always as fun as it used to be. Like days like today, when especially like a Monday, where I mostly try and check out. I spend some time with my daughter. I try and get outside. Then you like check back in, Sunday night, Monday morning. And it's like, fuck. So it's just like when we get started, it's like, this isn't good. There's not a lot of good news happening right now.
No, it's definitely not. But so I had to deal with stuff with my vehicle. So I have this thing where I hyper focus. Like I won't just decide to take, like I have to research my research, like to find places to take my car so I'm not going to get like ripped off or whatever because it's small. So I found this place that's pretty decent. Like they quoted a reasonable price, I thought, for my air conditioning and to this. My car's been making this noise. It's like a popping noise for a while.
Oh, good.
It's freaking me out. So they're very nice. The price is good, but like I haven't gone to a mechanic shop in a long time, and like I haven't been like ogled like that in a very long time, which was awkward.
You wanna tell us about it?
It just like, and so after, like, I think he figured out what was making the noise, and so like I don't know why mechanics do this. Don't explain to me what's wrong. I have no idea what you're showing me.
Same.
But so he comes out and he's showing me where I guess some bracket or some mount was making the popping noise.
Oh, he showed you.
He brought it up to showing me what it is, and the entire time I think he's looking at my chest 90% of the time, and my eyeballs like 10% of the time. It was awkward.
Someone said, "Were you leaning on the counter? What did you wear? Was this your fault, Jen?" That's what we're trying.
No, it wasn't. But you know what? I'm not gonna lie. Give me a decent price. You can look. That's fine.
Did he give you a decent price?
Yeah, I mean the price is good, and I mean the amount of time they spent like research. I mean, I feel like it was a decent price. So it was okay. But
I have basically all the same problems you have. except for the part where I can pull my shirt down a little bit and get a better price. I don't have that, unfortunately.
I mean, I guess L patriarchy. I don't know.
It's not fair. They say patriarchy hurts men, and I think that's an example of a time when the patriarchy hurts men, when you really need a good deal, but you don't got the goods. Yeah.
I mean, it's. I'll lean into my feminine energy for this one, I guess.
You'll lean down into your feminine energy. You lean over into it.
Right. Yeah. Dylan, I haven't deleted anything that you said. You're in here. You're a troll.
How the fuck's Dylan already complaining? Dylan, we've been here 5 minutes. Relax, man.
I noticed he was here early, but like 20 minutes before, because before the show I have everything populate on my screen, and so I saw him crying first thing.
Already, god damn, it's early to be crying, Dylan.
Yeah, but we can keep going. So, like I said, W for your evolving on small talk.
Thank you.
But yeah, so we're gonna get going. We do the show each day, Monday through Friday, from 9:30 to 1 Pacific time. If you aren't a paid member wherever you're watching, why?
Kayla says bend and snap for the patriarchy in this instance.
Oh, someone's got another reference for your glasses.
No. Now what?
Hold on.
Last one hurt my feelings.
I know. Got us in trouble with
Oh yeah, the last one got me banned. I forgot about that.
This one I think I sent it in our chat.
I don't mind this one. I don't mind this one's fine. Donnie. Yeah, I don't mind that one at all.
Are you showing the screen? Because no one can see it.
Pulling it up now. I don't mind that one. That's not so bad. It's one of my like top 3 favorite movies. So it's not a problem.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, we do this show each day, Monday through Friday, from 9:30 to 1. We have a gift goal that we need to hit so that we can keep the lights on and doing this each day. So Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chats all go towards knocking out the gift goal. If you're not a paid member, you should be, because we have members only events that you can join us for. Check out the link in the bio. We're on most social media platforms. We've got merch, days on Cameo. We upload these episodes to Spotify. So I've decided I'm going to start a vibrator repair service.
No.
Yeah. I'm going to call it Inspector Gadget.
All right. That's fine. Thanks, Jen. Good morning, TikTok. Good to see you guys here. Twitch and YouTube. Good to have all you guys here. Let's jump into some polling to kick things off here. Ack also said, where'd that go? Michigan, Arizona, Saturday. Wish we could friendly wager. You can friendly wager. I don't know which. I haven't seen. This isn't now. I haven't seen Michigan play. I haven't watched any bit. I tried to watch a little bit of the tournament this weekend, and then my daughter's like, "Nah, we're going outside." So we went outside. So I caught actually weirdly the end of that UConn Duke game last night, which is probably the best moment of the tournament so far. So that's good. Say hi to Twitch from YouTube. Okay, hi Twitch. YouTube says hi. It's Swiss Michael says hi. So I don't know. We could probably figure out some sort of friendly wager there. We'll just use Jen as the wager. You can borrow Jen for like a day if you win, and if not, I don't know what I don't know. What do you have to give? You DM me or DM Jen. Figure out what we have.
What do you buy?
It's fine, Jen. For? Just do your thing. It's fine.
No, what
this is not. We already did your segment. We're on to the next part now. You don't need to worry about it.
I'm gonna have to rewind and see what you're saying, because I wasn't 100% listening.
Okay. It's fine. It's no big deal. But let's talk about some polling. Here's the interesting thing about where we are politically. I don't know how you guys are doing it on TikTok. I know when I joined here, some of you said you were in Santana's live, and there was somebody that was there that was insufferable. I don't honestly know how you could be anything but insufferable. Did I say unsufferable the first time? Insufferable as a MAGA Republican. There's absolutely nothing going well. Just absolutely nothing. You are lying to yourselves every day. So you do one of two things. You wake up and pretend that it's going well and ignore it, or you show up here and you talk about shit that happened 8 years ago or trans people, and that's how you keep things going. But it's going horrifically. And here's some polling from Harry Enton, my favorite pollster, but I'm finding out recently not everybody's favorite pollster.
You know, I would say that House Republicans are running for the exits faster than kids do on the final.
Christy? Oh, is it that Christy? Like, my entire identity is trans people, Christy? She's from like New Jersey or New York or something like that. Yeah, okay, yeah, she's horrific. You know what's crazy? When I first got on TikTok, before that was her whole personality, she was one of the few conservatives that was really nice to me. Like, we actually got along. I even at one point when they started doing the TikTok agencies, I considered like signing with her agency. She just seemed like pretty. And then all of a sudden she was like, all I care about is trans people. And I was like, oh, gross. But she was actually really nice to me at the beginning. I didn't have a problem with her, and a little bit of a problem with her now.
You know, I would say that House Republicans are running for the exits faster than kids do on the final day of school. I mean, just take a look here. Oh, hello, most House retirements since 1930. So far this cycle, already 36.
Claims she's Democrat. That's just hates trans people. Okay, that could be it. Maybe that's why she was nice to me. Maybe she is. Maybe she's just a bigot that used to be a Democrat.
30. So far this cycle, already 36.
Not ideal.
That is the grand record over the last nearly 100 years. My goodness gracious. That actually beats the former record in total, which was 34 back in the 2018 cycle. And that wasn't that long ago. And I do recall that was a very, very good year for House Democrats. The bottom line is this: you don't run for the exits unless you know trouble is brewing. And House Republicans so far believe trouble is absolutely brewing.
Okay, how do you know that? What does history tell us about these types of exits?
Okay, so, you know, I say it's brewing, and sometimes I just like to pontificate, but sometimes I actually have facts behind me. Let's take a look here. Okay, party with the fewer House retirements since 1982 in midterms. They went on to win the U.S. House 80% of the time. Far fewer Democrats are retiring this cycle than Republicans. When one side runs for the exits, right? I'm doing my best right here, my best Usain Bolt right here. When one side runs for the exits, they lose the House of Representatives. When one side...
Yeah, exactly, Balsi. If you could see MAGA YouTube chat right now, they're just like going to try and talk about anything else is what they do. You're exactly right. Those of you on Twitch that are predicting what the MAGA YouTube chat is doing, you're nailing it.
Stays put, it's because they think something good is going to happen, and House Democrats clearly think something is good going to happen, and House Republicans clearly think something very bad is going to happen.
Again, we said this is basically a record since 1930, more than we've seen in 100 years, and that's just so far. I mean,
that's just so far. This is, I think, what's so clear is this number is likely to climb ever higher.
Okay, so what are they looking at? Sam Graves last Thursday, and it was a surprise. It was a bit of a reversal. What might he have been looking at that caused him to retire?
Nailing it, just like Jay with MAGA dads. That's right. Been nailing MAGA dads since 2023. Tell your dads, MAGA boys, tell your dads I said what's up.
You know, some elected officials aren't so smart, but many of them are. And they're looking at the same numbers we're looking at. And what they're looking at is the President of the United States and his approval rating. So why don't we just take a look here? Why are GOP retiring? Okay, when the president's approval is less than 50%, I went back all the way through the record books, all the way back since 1938 in midterm elections. When the House, the Press Party in the House, on average, loses 34 seats. Loses 34 seats when the president's approval rating is less than 50%. Donald Trump isn't anywhere close to 50%. He's at 40%. The average, the House for the president's party, they lose 34 seats. The least was just 9. That was actually Joe Biden back in 2022.
For those in the Twitch chat, and it's good to have you here. Who was that? Are you gone now? Did we get rid of that person already? Oh, bye, Democrat Diddy. Loading up on the China News Network comments. We get it, bud. If you have to use the same joke 50 times before somebody engages, maybe just try a different one. This is exactly what MAGA is, though. Bad news, and they're like, oh, it's Chinese propaganda.
But guess what? House Democrats only need to pick up of 1, 2, 3 in order to gain a majority. So the least, even the worst case scenario for Democrats is not anywhere close to what Republicans need to hold on to the House of Representatives. And one little last historical anecdote as I go over to the blackboard over here. The only 2 times that the president's party did not lose at least 3 seats was 1998 and 2002. You know what the president's approval rating was in those years? It was 60% plus. And Donald Trump at this point is just at a 40% approval rating, nowhere near what House Republicans need.
Imagine seeing all this data and then putting in the message, Democrats are done. Yeah, for sure.
That is why I said they're running to the exits. John laughing over there.
No, I mean, you have great form. Harry, thank you very much. This number very different than the president's current approval rating.
60 is very different from 40.
Thank you very much, sir.
Was that good form?
Yeah, I think his approval rate's about 40%. It depends. The lowest I've seen was 36%. But I've seen numbers around 40%. That's about right. 4 in 10 Americans like him. Yeah, going well. Just think, whatever anybody wants to say about what happened this weekend, you couldn't get 11 million MAGA out to do fucking anything right now. Not one. There's nothing you could get them out to protest for. There's nothing that they stand for currently. And again, nothing's going well. And so you're kind of just left with like criticize Democrats, which is a weird place to be, I would imagine, for many of you. And reminder, MAGA, you're welcome to come up here and talk to me at any point. You can just message GenDub1 over on Discord, and you can join the show live, and you can talk to me about it. I'd be interested to know. I really would. I'd be interested to know what makes you tick right now. I don't even know how you're criticizing Democrats. Like, there is nothing that's happening in this country that is Democrats' fault, at least on a federal level. They have absolutely no power. And the mere fact that you have to focus on things that happened in California or in Minnesota tells me that nothing's going well for you. If things were going well for you, if the stuff you voted for was happening, you wouldn't be here saying like shitting on Democrats. You'd be here saying like, look at the stock market, look at the jobs numbers, look at all of our no new wars. You'd be saying something that made sense, but everybody's prices are going up. This is not going to be a very fun live, I think, for anybody, but specifically for Republicans, and for two reasons. One, we're going to talk about economics, which you're fucked. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to follow along with that? I would highly recommend calling somebody who can do math and seeing if they're available as a phone a friend while we go through the data a little bit today. But two, it's bad news after bad news after bad news. I would love to pick something like good news that's happening that our government is doing right now. Can anybody think of anything like to MAGA that's here, like that you're here? What are you happy with right now? What's got you pumped about the Trump administration? I can only imagine what you're left with is saying like, I'm so glad we're bombing Iran. Egg prices, no more bird flu. Flew wrong, but I get it. Do we have anything there? I'll look at your answers here for a second. Welcome everybody. You're pumped, feeling pretty safe now. Safe from what? Were you not safe before? Or are you saying because we're bombing Iran? Yeah, I think that's kind of what you guys are going to have, is that you're bombing Iran. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Did you not see our last president falling off? See, yeah, there you go. You're going to talk about the last president. Yeah, you're doing exactly what I said. Like, we're asking for something specific, and you're just going to focus on the past. You guys have such like a victim complex. And I think that's 10 years now of conditioning under Trump, that what you do as MAGA is you complain about shit and you deflect. And so when you're in power, it's a really confusing time for a lot of you. Not really sure what to do when you have the House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, and things still aren't going well. You're like, oh, I guess maybe we could talk about how Joe Biden was old some more. I don't think you got. Yeah, you're not showing up. Not showing up today, but I appreciate you. Let's look at this. This tells me that we are in full panic mode over at the GOP. In Nebraska, Trump-supporting anti-abortion pastor is now running as a Democrat. The state's Democratic Party, which is backing an independent... come on. Fuck off, CNN. All right, I'm just going to tell you what happened. When did CNN become paid? Let me see if I can do this. Bypass it. When did CNN put it? CNN, you are not good enough at your jobs to have a paywall. Let's see. Try this one. All right. This will work. 79-year-old pastor who's either an extremely bizarre Democrat or a Republican plant meant to split the vote. William Forbes, this man, Denim Dan, entered Nebraska's Democratic primary in early March, just before the state's filing deadline, CNN reported on Monday. This came in defiance of state Democratic Party leadership, who are backing independent candidate Dan Osborne in the race to defeat incumbent Senator Pete Ricketts. Now, we haven't had a bunch of new polling from Nebraska, not for a while, but Dan Osborne, the last I checked, was either inside of the margin or up a point. And that's a problem. Like, if Republicans have lost Nebraska, that is a 5-alarm fire for the Republican Party. So now what they're doing is they're putting in a Republican plant in this 79-year-old pastor Williams Forbes, not because they think he can win, but they're hoping that if his name is on the ballot and there's a D next to it, that the Democrats that come out and vote, that just vote blue no matter who and go down ballot, that they'll vote him and they can split enough of the vote that Dan Osborne potentially could lose. The move is an unorthodox one by state Democrats, but it could pay dividends in 2024. Osborne's a Navy veteran, union leader, came within 7 points of defeating Senator Deb Fischer. It was a shocking moment. A progressive independent with zero name recognition almost defeated an establishment Republican, while President Donald Trump carried the state by 20 points. But the Osborne plan has since been upended by Forbes. If Forbes wins the primary, he will likely take hundreds of votes away from Osborne simply because he will technically be the Democratic candidate. These votes could be crucial in such a low population state. Things began to smell fishy when one looks into Forbes' political history. According to CNN, Forbes has voted for Trump multiple times and is anti-abortion. When he told CNN he was a lifelong Democrat and not a GOP plant, he could not name a single Democrat he had voted for in the past. Been there with Republicans. I voted for Obama. What policy did you like? I didn't vote for Obama. Forbes grew frustrated and said the party needed to return to the morality it represented under John F. Kennedy. Forbes attended a conference in January sponsored by the Nebraska GOP. I'm trying to get information from everybody, he said, when asked why he went to the event. I think for myself. I'm a free thinker. Forbes also deleted a Facebook page containing some of his sermons, which were reviewed by CNN and contain indications that he is more conservative than he claims. In one sermon, Forbes criticized the Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street protests, as well as cultural Marxism, which nobody can seem to explain to me what that is. Which he said was harming American institutions. In another, he referred to Joe Biden as Dementia Joe. In a third, he thanked Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and ex-Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem for restricting abortion rights. He's running to trick voters, said Nebraska DNC Chair Jane Klebe, adding that Forbes' campaign was a political maneuver engineered by Pete Ricketts to split the opposition vote. This is what you do when you're losing in Nebraska. They're afraid of losing Nebraska. That's how unpopular Donald Trump is. That you guys are now trying to figure out a way to not lose Nebraska. That'd be tough. When do we get to see Nick Shirley busting fraud? I don't know when he does it. Let me know when Nick Shirley busts some fraud, but I do have his speech from CPAC here. In fact, I'm gonna skip some of this stuff, but want to talk about the No Kings protests a little bit. And everybody I talked to, one, had a great time, as far as I know, largely peaceful, not a lot of MAGA. This was in the No Kings Con. I don't remember. I think this was the one in D.C., but here was some remarks from Bernie Sanders.
The last year, I must confess, I've been thinking a lot about American history, about the men and women in 1776 who, with unbelievable courage, announced to the world that they would no longer be ruled by the King of England, who had absolute power over their lives.
It is a pretty tricky thing for our Republican friends here, because you say we're not, you say that we don't have a king. You make fun of the idea that people are saying no kings, and yet you demand that we as a country treat Donald Trump like a king. When the Supreme Court rules against him, they are treasonous. When Congress doesn't vote for exactly what he wants, they are treasonous. When people speak up against Donald Trump, they are treasonous. You treat him like a king. We all know that he's not really a king. The no kings isn't because people are confused and think that he is a king. They're confused by you and your insistence on treating Donald Trump like a king, which is frustrating for a lot of reasons. But perhaps for me, at least, the most frustrating part is that he's a fucking dipshit, and you guys keep pretending that he's smart. We watched his cabinet meeting this last week, and he was incoherent. And there's just all these people standing around pretending that he knows what he's doing.
These patriots demanded freedom, and they fought a bloody revolutionary war against the most powerful military in the world to achieve that freedom. And they won. And after their military victory, they established the first democratic form of government in modern history.
And that form of government's really starting to piss off the MAGA conservatives. It keeps getting in the way. Those checks and balances, those three branches of government, that pesky little Constitution. It's incredibly frustrating, and I'm sorry.
In 1789, they said loudly and boldly to the entire world, here in this new nation of America, we don't want kings. And let us never forget the extraordinary and powerful words they left to us. Quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness."
You guys care about that anymore? How come you guys why are you guys chatting about Obama right now? Why are you guys smearing Bernie Sanders? Republicans, are you capable of seeing Bernie Sanders speak, hearing what he says and responding to what he's saying? Or is it only just like you can just criticize who Bernie Sanders is? Are we capable of that? Does anybody know what he's saying? Which part of what Bernie Sanders is saying do you disagree with specifically?
And today, in 2026, our message is exactly the same. No more kings.
So I assume you guys are against Bernie there. Bernie says no more kings. You guys are saying you want a king? Is that why you guys are opposed to Bernie right now? I'm very confused by your opposition currently.
We will not allow this country to descend into authoritarianism or oligarchy in America.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Broncos maniac. But what do you specifically have a problem with him saying here? Which part of what he said is a problem? I understand that you think he is a corrupt, rich socialist. But what do you have a problem with what he said here?
We, the people, will rule.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm with you there, Maggie. People admitting that they won't listen to Bernie Sanders is not a flex. It is interesting every time we put somebody up there, I'm not listening to this. Yeah, we get it. We know. We know. You're just only going to listen to things that confirm your bias. That's fine. Not a flex, though. It's not a flex. If you can't sit through opposition speaking, and wherever you are on the political spectrum, if somebody's speaking that's opposition to you and you're just like, I can't hear that, perhaps you might want to open your mind just a little bit more. Tim Walz was great in Minnesota as well. Cue the Tampon Tim shit in the chat because they're going to hate Tampon Tim as well. But I am a huge fan of Tim Walz. Two of my favorite politicians, Bernie and Tim Walz.
They call us radicals. I see that the president said it's a bunch of radicals.
Sorry, real quick. Broncos, you still didn't answer my question. Now you're just name calling me. Please answer my question. Which part of what Bernie said do you have a problem with?
You're damn right we've been radicalized. Radicalized by compassion. Radicalized by decency. Radicalized by due process. Radicalized by democracy. And radicalized to do all we can to oppose authoritarianism.
I mean, say whatever you want about these people. What the fuck are they doing there if they're not radicalized by this? You think people just want to go outside and stand and hold signs? Or to be radicalized means to be thirsty. There you go. Drink your water. It's important. Which is a reminder, actually. We are crowdfunded here, so anything you guys can do to help us knock out that gift goal every day would be greatly appreciated. So far, it's just ACK. A slow start this morning, but I appreciate you guys as always. Gift goal's in the... Is it? Oh, it's missing. That's why. Boom. Got it back. It's in the bottom left corner or the upper left corner, depending on where you're watching. Anything you can do to help us knock that out would be greatly appreciated by the end of the live. All right. Let's. I'm going to talk about some Republican stuff here. I want to show Brendan Carr. CPAC was going on. It might still be going on. I can't ever remember how long CPAC is, but this is why there are no Kings protests. Because they're not even hiding it anymore. They're just openly saying, like, we're doing straight up fascism, oligarchy, whatever you want to call it, and they're openly bragging about it. Now, this is Brendan Carr. For any of you who don't know who Brendan Carr is, he's the FCC commissioner. He's the one that authored the Project 2025 chapter about how the FCC would limit criticism of President Trump and how they would attack the media so the media could not criticize right-wingers. And here he is openly bragging about that now.
To give you such a shout out.
Look, President Trump, when he ran for office, he ran directly at the fake news media. So many other politicians and Americans simply gave way to the legacy national media. They let the legacy media set the narrative, and President Trump smashed the facade. He said, you don't get to decide what we say, what we think, how we're going to vote inside the voting booth.
That's a crazy thing to say. You don't get to decide. Yeah, they do. It's absolutely what they get to do.
President Trump he said, you don't get to decide what we say, what we think, how we're going to vote inside the voting booth. President Trump.
Yeah, they just get to choose how to cover it, right? Is the accusation here that they are forcing speech? That CNN, or I guess ABC and CBS are forcing speech by saying things that you don't like? Is this the criticism here? Where's my MAGA friends here? Can we explain this? Can we explain why the attack on the media?
Took on the fake news media, and President Trump is winning. Look at the results so far. PBS defunded, NPR defunded, Joy Reid gone from MSNBC, Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd gone, Jim Acosta gone, John Dickerson gone, Colbert.
So now we're making a list of people that were critical of Trump who are now removed from their positions. We're bragging about that?
Air is leaving. CBS is under new ownership, and soon enough, CNN is going to have new ownership as well. So we're not.
Yeah, that crowd is cheering for censorship. You guys are cheerleading censorship. And it jives with what you guys say here every single day when you're like, I'm not listening to this anymore. I don't want to hear this anymore. They're creating Viktor Orban in Hungary. They did this. And Trump loves Viktor Orban. You know how much negative coverage Viktor Orban got this last year by his media? 0%. 0%. That's what they're trying to do. They want to scare people away from criticizing the media. Meanwhile, right-wing media is, I don't know if they've ever been more dishonest than they are right now. We'll show you some clips here from Fox News. We've showed OAN and Newsmax last week getting absolutely obliterated by Ryan Grimm. Why you guys? Why? Why do you like this? Why are we cheering for this?
So this is significant.
We're not at the point yet, raising the mission accomplished.
How does this stifle freedom of speech? The First Amendment includes the free press, bud. So if you don't like what somebody is saying in the press and you put pressure on them to be fired and you threaten their license or you threaten their mergers and say, if you don't do what we want you to do, we will pull your license. That's a direct attack on the First Amendment. I do think that a huge disconnect between MAGA and the rest of this country is the understanding that the press, a free press, not only is covered under the First Amendment, but it was viewed as integral. The founding fathers, there's nothing to suggest that the founding fathers thought that the press would always tell the truth, or that they would always get things right, or that they wouldn't have bias. There's nothing in their documents that say we want a free press, but if the free press gets out of control and they're not telling the truth anymore, we have to shut them down. There's nothing in there that says that. But MAGA has somehow been like co-opted and convinced that to actually have a free press, you need to shut down opinions of people that you don't like. You can say whatever you want about anybody who's tried to silence speech. Can you point to an administration who's ever attacked news organizations the way this one does? Could you point to a time that Biden did this? Or Obama? Even that number, like, and that's another thing, like 90% demo rat. I think you meant demon rat. That's not even true. Fox News gets more viewership than CNN and MSNBC combined. Right-wing media gets way more views. That 90% number is completely made up. If you want to know who's consuming it, right? If you're trying to figure out the impact of left-wing or right-wing news, where's the biggest impact? On the right. They get the most views. It's always been that way. They figured this out long ago, that if you stop being a news organization and start being propagandists, you will get insane views. It would be a lot easier to be on the right, but even over here on the left, like if all I did was offer like generic opinion and not break things down and try and tell everybody that, you know, maybe if I said Brendan Carr like secretly had a Nazi tattoo, and then if I did his lineage and I found out his great-great-grandfather was a Nazi sympathizer, like that's news over on the right. Go check out your favorite people. Go check out Candace Owens. That's basically what her entire show is. That's basically everything Alex Jones does. That's what Steve Bannon does. And now that's what Fox News does too. They just find ways to smear people through really indirect connections. And that is now what you guys view as news. There's not serious journalists over there. Who's a serious Tucker maybe right now? Might just be Tucker Carlson. Who would you guys consider a serious investigative journalist on the right? Fine made. I don't know what you're talking about. The news is supposed to lie to you. Yeah, what? Dave Smith? I wouldn't call Dave Smith a journalist. I would call him a personality. I like a lot of what Dave Smith and I agree on a lot of stuff. No one likes Candace Owens? Well, her numbers say otherwise. Anybody? Who's a serious journalist over there? You don't think there's any serious journalists on the left? Yeah, that's fucking stupid. Have you ever read Drop Site News? Ever read that? How about Mehdi Hassan's an incredible journalist? Older millennial. That's a good point. I forgot about older millennial. I think Crystal, what's her last name? I think she's a great journalist. What is Crystal's last name? I don't know. Why can't I remember that? Crystal Ball. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, Dave Smith that's on Joe Rogan all the time. Yeah, Dave Smith's a comedian. He's just also a libertarian. Glenn Greenwald, I don't know, from time to time. Yeah, would you consider Glenn Greenwald on the left? He's kind of interesting. He took like a sharp turn into Conspiracyville for a while. Yeah, do we call Jon Stewart a journalist? I'm not sure. I'm not seeing a lot of you MAGA folks like dropping names of journalists. Can any of you give us a good name? Susie Brown's a great journalist. Do I know who Susie Brown is? I don't think I know who Susie Brown is. Brett Baer? Oh, he's pretty good for Fox. I don't know if we would consider him a journalist though. He's like a host, right? Commentator. Nick Fuentes, yeah. Nick Fuentes does a good research, honestly, but it's just to confirm his bias that Jews are the bad guys. But I do think Nick Fuentes tries a lot harder than most people on the right. Uh, thank you. Betsy says, in honor of Jeff from the YouTube chat. Kelly says, Antifa dues. I appreciate that. Good reminder. The month is almost over. Let's make sure we get those Antifa dues in. Amber said, average age of a Democrat voter is 49. Average age of Republican voters 52. Sounds like a small difference, but it is average. Average age of mainstream news watchers between 67 and 72. Tanya also says, happy Monday. Thank you, Tanya. Nick Shirley's not a good journalist. Nick Shirley's a fucking dipshit. He's literally not exposed any crime at all, and he keeps claiming it. We're going to actually watch his CPAC speech here. He's remarkably dumb. I honestly feel bad for people who think Nick Shirley is a good journalist or smart at all. He is so transparently dumb that it's hard for me to watch people pay attention to what he's doing and go, yeah, he's got it together. You could put fraud right in front of Nick Shirley's face. And for example, the Learning Center, the Leering Center, there might be fraud there. They shut their business down. There might be, but Nick can't find it. You can put this shit in front of Nick and he will never find it. He has no clue. His entire video in California was, these people make money and they drive nice cars, therefore fraud. And then you go watch the CBS version and you're like, oh, CBS was a lot closer. CBS, I don't know, proved the fraud. It didn't prove any of those individuals to be fraudulent, but they gave a lot more information that would lead you to believe, there's a real possibility some of these businesses that they're highlighting are fraudulent. Not Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley's just like, this is the money that they got, and this is a BMW in the parking lot, therefore fraud. We're going to listen to Nick Shirley. Sorry, I have to do it. I'm going to have to. He did? Oh, okay, great. Who was that? What fraud did Nick Shirley find, Evan? What was the fraud specifically? Give me a name of a business that was fraudulent, and Nick Shirley showed you the fraud that they committed. We'll be looking for that in the chat. All right, here's the rest with Brennan Carr.
But President Trump is taking.
He did not prove fraud in Minnesota. He didn't. This is what I'm saying. You guys have to know what fraud is. He didn't. What he showed in Minnesota is that there were companies who got a lot of money. And when he went there weren't kids there. That's not fraud. It potentially could be fraud, but you need to know the hours of operations. You need to know when those kids typically stay there. You need to know how many kids typically stay there, not just total enrollment. And then you've got to compare that. And all this stuff you can get FOIA requests. Nick could do all of this through FOIA requests instead of knocking on doors, but that's not as fun. So he goes and he knocks on doors. Go backwards here to Brennan Carr.
Raising the mission accomplished flag, but President Trump is taking on the fake news media, and President Trump is winning.
And this is significant.
That's what you say about a fascist. Because what Trump isn't actually doing is winning. He's not winning in court. He's winning by using leverage from the FCC and holding licenses and mergers over their head to get them to do what he wants them to do. He's not winning based on the law. He's using his leverage to force them into submission. That's what authoritarians do. That's what fascists do. You guys can't do that. You can't play both sides here. This is bragging about fascism. Brennan Carr here. So if you like what Brennan Carr is saying, you can't be like, oh, this is democracy, or this is constitutional, this is patriotic. No, it is indeed not. It is subverting our laws and using the massive amount of power in the executive branch to force people into submission. But yeah, I don't know what I'm saying that's wrong, but let me know on that. Okay. Let's go. I'm going to skip 3. I don't know if anybody's actually, I'm going to jump into it. I think this is really important. It's not very political, but I find this to be very important in my own life. And if perhaps some of you guys have this, this might be a neurodivergent thing. But if you are having times where maybe your life's not going how you expect it to go, or you're frustrated with how things are going, or you're just worn out mentally, and you find yourself not much going through your head, and then you realize for an hour you've been scrolling Instagram, or you've been scrolling YouTube or TikTok or wherever it might be, and you're like, I got that was nothing. I did an hour's worth of like 30-second to 1-minute videos. I learned nothing. I gained nothing from that. And then you're like, fuck, I can't do that again. It is meant to be that way. This is I think it was a CNN segment, I'm pretty sure. CBS segment with Jonathan Haidt, who was the author of a new book that I just finished reading called The Anxious Generation, or listening to, called The Anxious Generation. And this segment was really enlightening. Now, we shouldn't even have argument here. This should be pretty easy across the board for everybody to recognize this. And maybe this is like our olive branch before we get back into politics. But I just wanted to cover it because I think it's really important, especially if you have kids.
Now, one of the catalysts for the social media addiction debate was a 2024 book called The Anxious Generation by social psychologist Jonathan Haidt.
Sorry, Leslie said I was ready for the protests here in Cottonwood, but they had a controlled burn up north and I couldn't breathe or see. Why is that whole message not coming through? Had to cancel. There you go. Thank you, Leslie. And then I'll check here real quick before we get started. Corvette Girl Robin said, going to feed off Jen's joke this morning, what do a velociraptor and tofu have in common? They are both meat substitutes. A V-raptor? Vibrator, not velociraptor. I thought V-raptor was velociraptor. What do a vibrator and tofu have in common? They are both meat substitutes. Bad guess by me.
Argued children's addiction to social media was literally engineered by the platforms. His new book, The Amazing Generation, tries to help parents and kids break free of screens. Jonathan Haidt joins us now to talk more about
Dylan, you have to stay on subject today. You're going to bother me. Stay on subject. You have to talk about whatever we're talking about today, or else mods get to mute you.
Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. Excited to talk to you about this topic. You have argued for years that social media companies are responsible for causing children to become addicted. But then Mark Zuckerberg, he testified there saying there is no scientific proof that social media causes mental health problems. So what is your take on the testimony and about this trial?
Yeah, so he just keeps saying that, and it's just completely flat out not true. I had dinner with him in January of 2020. We had a long conversation. I said, Mark, there's actually a lot of evidence now. He said, no, it's just correlational. I said, no, it's not. Well, here we are 6 years later, rather. It turns out Meta has done dozens of studies, and those have only come to light because the attorneys in these lawsuits are able to.
Kenzo, you can't tell me to get the fuck out of here. This is my stream. You have to go. You have to get the fuck out of here. I have to stay here. It's mine.
To do some document discovery. And so, for example, Meta itself had conducted a very good experiment in 2018 where they asked people to get off of social media for a week. And here's what they found. Quote, we found that those who stopped using Facebook for a week reported lower feelings of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and social comparison. That's just one experiment.
This is why, like, as we have this AI boom and we have social media, that's a fucking crazy study. 1 week of getting off of Facebook and you're happier. And it's almost impossible for people to get off social media. That's how addictive it is. That is as addictive when you think about, like, psychologically, as something like cigarettes or opiates. Like, when your brain just like craves it, it needs that dopamine. I know for me, for a fact, that the weeks that I spend the most time on social media are the weeks that I get the least amount done, and I don't feel as good about myself. That is absolutely, I think every one of us could recognize that.
20 or 30 other experiments that we found done by academics. So there's a lot of experimental evidence of harm. There are self-reports from the kids. If 25% of teen girls say that it's damaged their mental health, that's not a correlation. That's direct testimony from victims.
Bree's here? Hey, Bree. Bree says, touch grass, goddammit. Bree, I've missed you. Where have you been?
Wow. Okay, so we are now seeing phone-free schools and countries imposing age restrictions on social media. Do you think those will make any difference? And what more, from your experience and your expertise, would you like to see happen?
Yeah. Well, what's basically happened is that childhood has been taken out of the real world, out of a...
Yes, Bree. Yes. Yes. Yes.
A situation where kids would talk to each other, would laugh with each other, would put their arms around each other. Childhood used to be lived in the real world. We're mammals, we need that.
Yeah.
And once everyone got a smartphone and social media, it moved online. And at first we thought, oh, well, maybe this is okay, but now we know it's not. So the phone-free schools have been magical. Teachers, universally, we hear the same thing. Wherever states have gone phone-free, the teachers and the administrators say, we hear laughter in the hallways again. We haven't heard that in more than a decade. So the phone-free schools are incredible. If you are able to text your child during the school day, then your state isn't doing it right, and your child is distracted and is not even spending that much time talking with other kids. They're all on their phones. But the states that did it right are getting spectacular results. And what's especially exciting to me is that social media is quite obviously inappropriate for children. You're talking with strange men who want sex and money from children. I mean, this just shouldn't be happening. They're designed to be addictive. And so many countries now are saying, time's up, we're sick of this, we don't believe you, we're raising the age to 16. About a dozen countries are following Australia, and they're going to do that in 2026.
And it's funny because I have seen people, when they talk about this ongoing case with Mark Zuckerberg, they've said, well, you know, parents allow their kids on social media. So
if you're not familiar with the case, this is the New Mexico case where I think they were ordered to pay something like $380 million because of the abuse and harassment of young girls. And it's a landmark case because if it on appeal stands, then you're probably going to have 50 out of 50 states suing Meta.
Fault in the first place. Why are they blaming Facebook? Why are they blaming Meta for all of this? I want to know, though, what is your advice for parents? Because clearly parents are concerned about this. So what can they do?
Yeah. So we've all been fighting. We've all been having the same fight all around the world. It's a constant struggle because these things are so addictive. Yeah,
that's fair, Reader. I don't agree with phone-free schools until they can guarantee my child's safety while in that building, which in the U.S. they can't do. That's true. That is a tricky one. Like, you want your kids to learn. You want them to be distracted from the manipulation of social media. At the same time, we live in America where we don't do a goddamn thing about protecting children at school.
This is much more addictive than television. Television didn't let you get that sort of stimulus response reinforcement loop that you get from swiping and touching. So I'm afraid to say this, but I think we have to give our kids back childhood away from these devices. What I argue in The Anxious Generation is 4 norms. No smartphone before high school. Do not give your child a smartphone or a tablet or an iPad before high school. Give them a flip phone, a basic phone. Number 2, no social media before 16.
I guess that's maybe the solution there. Don't give them a smartphone. Then you can still talk to them.
It's wildly inappropriate for children. It's really dangerous. A lot of kids are cyberbullied, sextorted. They end up killing themselves or developing eating disorders. So just don't let them on until 16. The third is phone-free schools, which is happening all across the country and around the world. And the fourth is far more independence and free play in the real world. We have to give our kids back a childhood worth having. If you do those things now, it's hard to do if you're alone. But if you can get a few other parents in your neighborhood so that the kids have other kids to hang out with, you're going to get magical results.
I was going to say, because, I mean, those 4 things sound really great, but then you have parents whose kids are going to say, well, my friend has this, and my friend gets to do that. So that's sort of a challenge for parents to navigate, right?
Exactly. That's exactly the central point here, is that the companies put us all into what we call a collective action trap. Which is,
I see a lot of different solutions, and I appreciate that. As a parent, I think that there are ways for you to, I'm not saying that necessarily what he's saying is right, but I think the research is what's really important to me there. And I don't know that everybody knows about this research. I don't know. I think we all inherently guess that social media is addictive and that it's problematic, but at least for me, and maybe I'm just late to the party here, but as a father of a 6-year-old who now is starting to understand social media a little bit more, the only thing she ever really uses is YouTube, and we're pretty careful about that. But it's something to be aware of. And then the more I learned on her behalf, the more I recognized the patterns in my life of like, yeah, this can really fuck you up.
If I take my kid out, I'm imposing a cost on my kid if she's the only one. She is excluded now. But if we all take our kids out, then they find each other, they play, they talk on the phone. Talking on the phone is great. Talking on FaceTime is great. But the posting, the constant posting, being a brand manager, liking people's posts, that is not communication. That is self-presentation and brand management. So the kids are stuck in this trap. The parents are stuck in this trap. But if we all get out together, then we're all free. And that, I think, would give us a country with kids who have healthy human childhoods. They develop basic social skills like looking you in the eye. They'll be able to pay attention in school. They'll be able to read books. The day you give your kid a smartphone and social media is the day they stop reading. And so pick what age you want that to happen.
So, Jonathan,
even that's kind of fair. Like, Do you guys feel like now that you have a smartphone, you read less? I mean, I definitely listen to audiobooks more, but yeah, I probably read less. But in fact, a lot of times if I find an article that I want to read, I'll go to YouTube and I'll see if the author broke it down a different way.
I have to ask you about this because we're having this conversation about social media, but then
some of you read more. I like seeing that. All right, some of you are smarter than me. God damn it.
Looming over all of tech is AI. Kids are interacting with AI chatbots. So how can these interactions affect kids?
Yeah. Well, so they fooled us with social media. They said this is going to help kids connect, but it didn't. It turns out it made them lonely because they stopped connecting. Then they fooled us with ed tech. They put computers on all our kids' desks thinking this is going to help their education, but it didn't. It distracted them and scores are dropping. Now they say there's a loneliness epidemic, which of course they created, a loneliness epidemic, but we're going to give kids fake friends. We're going to give them AIs. Yeah. AIs are basically an alien intelligence. We are creating a kind of an intelligence which is looking more and more like a creature. If aliens landed tomorrow, the last thing we would do is say, hey, kids, there's these new aliens in town.
I said, Cascas says, and this is where maybe you guys know better than me, so it's parental settings and setup solve this and you don't worry about this. But I'm also seeing the same people in the chat being like, yeah, well, third graders are learning how to jailbreak their phones and get around that. So I don't know much. I can't. You all know if you've been around, I can't jailbreak shit. I can barely operate a computer, so I wouldn't know how to do that. But I can tell you, as a kid, I would have figured it out.
We don't understand them. We don't really know what they're going to do. But go off and play with them. That's what we're doing. We are putting AIs in teddy bears. We are letting children are, as of now, children are going to be raised by AIs, which will be very responsive to the child, more responsive than a parent, because the parent's busy with real life. And so our children are going to stop developing attachments to their parents, or at least that will be reduced. And the attachment system that's in every child's brain, that is going to be taken over, I believe, by chatbots. And so I think we should just have a rule. No relational chatbots for minors. I mean, wait until they're 18. These things are dangerous. They've already driven many young people to suicide. They've driven hundreds of thousands to psychosis, to insanity. So I think we probably shouldn't just let Silicon Valley run an experiment again on our children.
Yeah. That's the big part I want to say is that parenting, do your thing, but don't just let Silicon Valley run roughshod on your kids. Be aware of that. And on yourself, too. It's not just kids. They're studying kids. That's where it tugs at everybody's heartstrings, but it's us too. And I do think that like social media, short clips, TikTok, sorry, TikTok, or I don't know if that's going to get us banned. Like it has allowed, at least politically, the dumbification of our voting populace, where most people that you talk to about politics are entirely educated by 30 to 60 second clips that they watch on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. And that's the extent of their political knowledge. And in 30 to 60 seconds, it's very easy to give somebody a compelling narrative without the data and get them to a point where you force-fed so much of that shit to them that they don't believe anything true anymore. I played in a golf tournament last weekend, not this, yeah, the weekend previous. And I was playing with a good friend of mine who, honest to God, like very good person. We haven't talked in a while. He's very, very busy. I haven't been out playing golf that much, and we used to play a lot of golf together. But at one point, he said something about, we were talking about the debt. I don't even remember how the debt came up, and he's like, "Yeah, it just sucks. Like that, you know, we'd be in such a better place if we weren't giving all of our money to illegal immigrants." And like, you know, he's like, I think we'd have like half the debt if we didn't give it to illegal immigrants. And I was like, I let it go. We're in a golf tournament. I'm not going to argue with him there, but I know where he gets it. I know how busy he is. So I know that that's just his algorithm. And the reason that he wound up that way is because he loves guns. Like he loves shooting guns. He's always been a gun enthusiast. As long as I've known him, he's been buying new guns. He goes out in the desert. He shoots all the time. That was his thing, was never political. But then like they realized that if they target people that like him, they can turn that person into a conservative. And it didn't take that long. So we were talking about 2 years, and all of a sudden that's a I hate immigrants conservative. Why? Because he had a hobby of shooting guns. Responsible gun owner, has them locked up. They have kids. Like he's very responsible, but all of a sudden he's like a uninformed conservative. You have new response, Dylan? That's great news. That's great news. How come your response, Dylan? You sit here every day. It'd be nice if you contributed once in a while, which is a reminder to everybody, we are crowdfunded. Anything you can do to help us knock out that gift goal before the end of the live is greatly appreciated. Parenting Corner is over for the day. and we're going to get back into politics with a little bit of parenting corner here. We have a measles outbreak in the United States. As if there's not enough things going on, we have 1,575 cases as of March 26th of measles in this country.
There is this spike out in Utah. Why can't...
Listen, I want to say this too. Like, Allie, it's not about excusing people. We have to be honest, right? Like, and I don't mean to like go after you. I live around almost 100% conservative people. Almost 100%. I cannot find it in myself to say that all conservatives are bad. I can't. Why do I? And I can't say that across the board. Like, there's people that are in this chat regularly that this is where they get their information, and they try and remember what I say, and then they move on. It is not hard to convince somebody that something is real when they have 30 minutes a day to scroll through social media. They will believe that it's real. I don't think that you have to excuse. I don't think you have to excuse like that they came to a wrong conclusion. But I'm just not ready to say that everybody who believes conservative talking points is evil. This is a person who grew up the same place I did. In fact, a less diverse place that I grew up in, moved here to Mesa, Arizona, like literally has never lived anywhere other than a white, conservative, ethnically non-diverse echo chamber. So while I know that he's wrong, and I think that sucks, I also recognize the change that I saw in him. These weren't views that he like thought about and came by on his own. This person never talked about politics ever. But if you go back and you look like to the 2016 election and going forward, the way that Trump was able to hijack the Republican Party is because this type of stuff like used to not be mainstream. You would go to when I went to the Republican meetings, we go to the state convention or RNC conventions, and this stuff was like behind the scenes. You would talk about a lot of this stuff. But generally out in the public, it wasn't that discussed. Now it's almost reversed. Like they don't get into anything substantive. Nobody talks about tax policy. Nobody talks about economic models. We had the fucking Tea Party that was invented because they were worried about government spending. They don't give a shit about that anymore. And what happened is in 2016, thanks to places like Cambridge Analytica and Steve Bannon, what they realized is that they weren't going to convince voters that of these new ideas. They weren't going to be able to dupe regular voters with these new ideas. It was a brilliant strategy by Bannon. What they realized is that there are all these other people who sometimes they might vote, but they're not engaged in politics. And if you could get this fringe group of people more engaged in politics, you could flip the narrative. So instead of like the adults in the room, the Mitt Romneys and the John McCains, who again don't agree with their politics, but they were adults, instead of them being in charge and them driving the narrative, they flipped it. They put all this energy into like anti-immigrant sentiment and like America first. They started trotting out like replacement theory. And for all of the people who like normally weren't targeted with political propaganda, all of a sudden these people that followed gun groups and like hunting groups and fishing groups and car groups, all of a sudden, if you were white and you followed one of those groups, they started shooting advertising at you, and it was made for you. It was curated for you. In the video, it would be like some guy working on a car, or someone like shooting guns, somebody like with their family, like going to church, and they're like, "Your way of life is under attack," and they're like, "What the fuck? My way of life is under attack?" And it was kind of the first time that those people specifically had been targeted. And that's a little bit like connecting to that last report on social media. That's what they're able to do. They're able to manipulate people. So as somebody who like, one, came out of that conservative movement, but two, came out of a cult, I recognize programming. And I do think that like once somebody is programmed, you have really two options. You can say that person is left for dead. Like there's nothing you can do. You can't excuse the behavior that led them to there. That's fine. But if I just say like there's no excuse for that, I can't fix that. Just standing by and letting it go doesn't work. So what I have to do now with this particular friend, we're in a golf tournament. I can't address it right then. What I have to do is I have to be more aware of it now and in the future, because we have a good relationship and he respects, at least he used to respect my political opinions because he thinks I come by them thoughtfully. They're obviously not the same opinions of everybody around me, because everybody around me has the exact opposite opinions. I have to wait for those moments. And you have to catch somebody where they're not defensive. You have to catch somebody when you're having an open conversation, and you have to pick a time when you feel like you can have a conversation about a certain issue that isn't like overtly political, and then you start helping them learn how to like sift through data. It sucks, but it's the only way to do it. Calling somebody out might feel fun, and it may, and maybe on TikTok or whatever that works, but like just calling people out and saying that's racist, you're a racist, you might be right. You are right, effectively, right? Like if you support things that are racist, even if you yourself aren't espousing racist beliefs, it is still racist. But, and that you're okay. I think you're right to say that that is racist, whether you hate, let's just say like Jewish people or not. But if you're doing anti-Semitism, it's anti-Semitism. It has the same effect. However, that's not effective if you want to change that person. They don't care. That's how split and divided we are. The people on the right have been conditioned that racism, if you're being called a racist or a bigot, then it's just a name calling because you don't have a good argument. And that's just the reality that we live in. Right or wrong. That's the reality that we live in. There's no other way to get across to these people. So I didn't mean to single you out. That's an L take. It's an L take to say that you have to find ways to communicate with people who think differently than you. Is that an L take? Call-ins are better than call-outs. I agree. Yeah, maybe, Dano. Maybe they think it's a badge of honor to be called a racist or a bigot. I still think for some people it bothers them. Like we live in a different. Those of us who are online specifically, who are dealing with politics, like we deal with the worst of the worst. And a lot of the people that we deal with, it's a pride thing. They're here to troll. They're here to play like a team sport. But when I'm talking about my friend here, like this guy doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck about Donald Trump. Doesn't give a fuck about Republicans. I don't even know if he really votes. To be honest, I have no idea if he votes. He does not give a fuck about any of that stuff. It's not a team game to him. And there's a lot of people out there that are like that just get looped in. But it's not part of his identity. He's not out buying Trump hats. He's not out there like putting shit out on the internet trying to fight. It was just an interesting look into like how he has been targeted and how he believes that. And frankly, if you're not educated on the matter, and you're getting stuff every single day saying, like, we spend trillions of dollars every year on illegal immigrants. And you're like, okay, if we spend trillions every year, that's $1 trillion a year. We're, about 40 trillion in debt. Is it possible that we spent $1 trillion every year for 40 years or 20 years of that? Could $20 trillion of the debt be because of illegal immigrants? And if you're just processing that with no information, it would be very easy as a person who's being targeted to be like, yeah, this is a problem. And then I'm sure he listens to Joe Rogan, and then that's going to introduce him now. Like Rogan's bringing on Andrew Wilson, he used to bring on Steven Crowder, he brings on Ben Shapiro, and now you take these people who were like Joe Rogan fans because they liked his hunting stories or whatever, and now suddenly the politics are dispersed into that as well, and they don't view it as politics because Rogan's like, I'm not political, and suddenly you have all these people who are conservatives kind of by default. It's just like they were infiltrated, and now they have these opinions, and the opinions sound sensible to them. That's why the Republicans here, whenever they get cornered, they say it's common sense, because that's really like as far as conservative media is going to push you. It's to common sense. That's why we asked earlier, like, who's the journalist on the right? Who's out there providing you data and sound data-driven arguments? I don't know of one. Can you name a political debater that uses data to drive anything? I think that the best person, the best debater that I've debated is probably Andrew Wilson. And when we got to the data portion of our debate, which was the first half, he literally didn't have any. At some point, he just said, I concede the entire argument to you. I concede the entire data argument. Can we talk about how immigrants make me feel icky? Conservatives, do you have one? Ben Shapiro? No, Ben Shapiro is not. Just because Ben Shapiro one time said facts don't care about your feelings. I wonder what that was even about. Does anybody know what that was about? I wonder if we could find it. It'd be interesting to see if Ben Shapiro was wrong about that. Let's see if we can find like the context. I don't have facts. Don't. Let's see.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, that all of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5.
Oh, no, that's not it. That's the one where he says, you can watch this, actually. Here's Ben Shapiro. There's a good example of somebody who's not going to let facts get in the good way of a good opinion.
5 feet over the next 100 years, say 10 feet. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
If your house is underwater, aren't you just going to sell your home and move? Probably not. I don't think anybody's going to buy it. But let's see if I can find the facts don't care about your feelings. Does anybody know what it was about? This might be it.
Fact. They don't care about your feelings.
That's the whole thing. What's the context here? Here it is.
Do you feel that a lot of your speech could incite?
Real quick before that plays, Johnny Longtail said, I haven't played golf since September because of this cancer shit. Hoping to play in May or June. Thanks to the stream. Thanks, Johnny. If you're ever down here, I got you. Joe said, thanks so much for all you do. Always appreciate y'all's presence. Thank you, Zoe. Sully said, my daughter's high school has a no phone policy, yet she texts and calls me all day. They always find ways around it. Oh, thanks, Jen. Queen Jen found it immediately. All right, let's see if he was right about this or not.
Do you feel that a lot of your speech could incite the same kind of violence?
I mean, you heard my speech tonight. Do you feel that my speech could incite violence?
Well,
I mean that seriously. That's an honest question.
I know you're asking honestly. I feel that for me, as an individual, it isn't, but I could see how a lot of your points I really disagreed with. I literally have a list of
and that's fine. I mean, that's the good part, right? Where we disagree and we can have a conversation.
I just was wondering in terms of, and what I mean by inciting violence is encouraging the same people who believe in like your transphobic beliefs, even that like homophobia is a sin based on your religious beliefs. Do you believe that because of what you say, you can encourage a lot of people to act on those beliefs?
So I have a very strong standard with regard to incitement, and I'm very consistent about this. If I'm not telling somebody to commit violence, I am not inciting them to violence. I've held the standard for...
That's yeah. I changed the definition. If I don't directly tell you to do it, then all speech is good. That's a pretty cool way to debate there. I'm just going to define my own parameters here so that you can't hold me to that.
Barack Obama, when he was saying anti-police things and then somebody went and shot up some police officers in Dallas, I said that's not Barack Obama's fault. When a Bernie Sanders supporter went and shot up a congressional baseball game, I said that's not Bernie Sanders' fault because Bernie Sanders wasn't calling for that. Political debate requires that you talk to people and people take your words as what they mean, not as an excuse to go and do violence. I've never called for violence, nor would I. As far as the idea that my words are some sort of attack, a violent attack, for example, on folks who are transgender, my view, I know, but I'm responding to the people who are not you who might say that. Okay. So the idea that I am transphobic, for example, this is a bizarre kind of attack in the sense that I don't know that I've ever exhibited phobia of trans people. I'm not afraid of trans people.
Well, transphobia is more along the lines of
I find that interesting when for him to even say that. Like, you are specifically advocating that other people's children not be allowed to be trans and that you can't acknowledge a trans person at school. Is that not phobia? You fear that your kids will learn something different than what you believe in? That is like textbook phobia, isn't it?
Well, prejudice against the trans.
So I actually think that your first characterization was right. I think that transphobia is really disagreement with the basic principle that the trans community is trying to purvey, which is that people's sex is malleable, that people can move from male to female, and that it is my job, objectively, to now call them the name they wish to be called, and to teach my children that men can be women and women can be men. I fundamentally disagree with that point. Now, with that said...
Yeah, so you fear that your children will hear something different than what you believe.
Is everybody in the United States entitled to the same rights? Of course, but your right does not extend to forcing me to call you what you want me to call you. That's not the way this works. That violates my freedom of speech. So in interpersonal relationships, if I were out to dinner with a trans person, would I make a point of noting their proper biological sex? No, because that would be impolite. When I'm talking about the general principle of is a man a woman or is a woman a man, the answer is I will say that a man is a man and a woman is.
So you kids can't be polite at school. At school, you would be. First of all, I think he's changed this stance now. Bearded Ben Shapiro now would stand on principle and say I would never use somebody's pronouns. But there used to be a more sensible version of Ben Shapiro. Believe it or not.
A woman and a he is a he and a she is a she. And if I'm in a public debate with somebody, I will say the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're not phobic if you don't agree with someone's perception of themselves. Agreed. But you are phobic if that person cannot express those feelings because you are afraid that your children will hear that. Look, we don't do anti-Semitism here. Mods, you see where it is. Anybody who's just blatantly anti-Semitic, just get rid of them immediately. Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on. That was a weird segue there. How did we even get to Ben Shapiro? I don't even remember how we got there. All right, I want to show you this. This was if you haven't seen this, this is the
wealth.
Graham and Jack, they host a podcast. I forget what it's even called. They are like the Capitalist podcast, and they had on Kevin O'Leary. And I'm just going to spoil it a little bit here, like they're joking, because they would never be anti-capitalist and they would never be anti-billionaire. But they gave, as a joke, an opportunity for Kevin O'Leary, a multi-millionaire. I don't know if he's a billionaire. I'm not sure. I don't think he is. An opportunity to defend why you can't tax rich people more. And watch how poorly this goes.
What do you think of the wealth tax? Because Jack, we were having a discussion earlier, believes that it might be a good thing.
No, Jack, you're going to hell for saying that.
Oh, sorry, real quick. Joy said, I've learned when hearing propaganda coming out of the mouth of someone with whom I have a connection, they respond well when I say, hey, that comment does not align with how smart I believe you are. Please don't say that to anyone else until we have a chance to talk it out. Maybe I'll try that. I've never tried that, Joy.
No, Jack, you're going to hell for saying that.
But there's an argument to be made.
Jesus historically was said, you'll go to hell if you present the idea that rich people should pay more in taxes. Jesus was he was a big fan of rich people not paying taxes.
No, there isn't. It's un-American. It will destroy the fabric of the economy, punishing wealth and success.
Well, it's not punishing because they already have billions of dollars.
Right. The difference between having $5 billion and then let's just say a 10% wealth tax, $4.5 billion is not quite significant.
Now, again, they're joking. You tell me who wins this debate. They're joking. They don't believe this. So hypothetically, playing devil's advocate, just watch. Does Kevin O'Leary have a good answer for this?
It's just the idea that you're made a promise to come to America as an entrepreneur, to achieve the American dream, and
nobody makes you that promise. What promise did you make with America if you come here from a foreign country? He came from Canada, by the way. Is there a promise that if you come here, that we say, like, if you get rich, we won't tax you more?
Then some arbitrary politician randomly decides, we're going to appropriate that from you. We're going to...
Now, I'm also confused how he got into this country. You're supposed to take a citizenship test. He should know also that an arbitrary politician cannot change your taxes. You have to pass a law, and it has to get through the House and the Senate, and then the president has to sign it. This thing that he's explaining here, this promise that you make to immigrants that if they come here and they get rich, they won't be taxed more, that doesn't exist. And then the scenario he's laying out is that a singular politician can just decide to tax you more.
Steal your wealth just because we feel that a 10% wealth tax is appropriate.
It's not really stealing. It's redistributing.
You're going to go to hell too. like both of you are going to hell.
They're winning the debate. They're actually winning this debate. Oh, sorry, Lee. Guys, Lee Deemers is here. Lee, welcome to the stream. These videos are available on the internet, my friend, and you can watch them in their entirety without my commentary. But if you're here, I interrupt them. and I provide commentary. And one thing I don't like is when people act like little bitches about it in the chat. And so we also believe in collective punishment here. And because you whined about me pausing the video and talking too much, we are now about to have 10 seconds of silence. And this is because of you. You are causing everybody to sit here uncomfortably for 10 seconds of complete silence until we start the video again. Starting now. All right, let's be better. Ironically, though, they're winning the debate. They're laughing about it. Not one of them realizes that they're winning the debate. Go back there.
It's redistributing.
And of course it's redistributing because who provides the currency? The government. Why do they provide currency? So that we don't have a barter system, so that you can pay for things, so the economy moves more quickly and more seamlessly, and so that you might provide a service rather than a good. And you might provide a good or a service that somebody else doesn't want to barter for, but you need apples. And you're like, hey, I'll trim your trees. And they're like, we already have a tree trimmer. And you're like, fuck, that's all I got. So instead you have currency, and it's provided by the government, and it's meant to circulate so the economy continues to expand and so that everybody gets access to money. So the very idea of currency is redistribution. That's the whole point of currency. Somehow the like redistribution of wealth has become like a buzzword that makes conservatives angry, but that's the whole fucking point of having a currency.
You're going to go to hell too. like both of you are going to hell. I feel sorry. I mean,
well, we've never made any real money.
I've heard that word before in Cuba, in North Korea, in Russia.
It just hasn't been.
And also every other country that has currency. Every single country that has currency has taxes, meaning redistribution. So you've heard it in every country. Canada, where you came from, Kevin.
Done right.
They're all shitholes now. How about Venezuela? They redistribute all the time to corruption. It's a shithole.
Let's assuming it goes to corruption. But if it doesn't?
No, the point is...
We're not very corrupt here in America.
No, because we have laws and we abide by them.
Guys, did you know that we are not very corrupt here in America? Historically speaking, the richest people amongst us are not corrupt. Our government is not corrupt. He just talked about shithole countries and named Venezuela, which was decimated by our corrupt government doing the bidding of oil executives who thought that they should make the profits off of Venezuelan oil and not the Venezuelan people. This is what, like, conservatism, this is why they get mad when you're negative. It's just like happy-go-lucky all the time. Like, we're the greatest, we're the best, we're the good guys. 3 people right there all agree that America is not corrupt. And Kevin O'Leary is like, yeah, because we have laws. All those other countries have laws too.
America.
No, because we have laws and we abide by them. But one of those laws is you can't steal people's money. So this idea of a wealth tax is going to be litigated right to the Supreme Court, and it's going to lose because it's un-American.
That's a crazy thing to say because we've had a wealth tax in this country for decades, and it was never ruled unconstitutional. And how could it be ruled unconstitutional?
And there is no such thing as too much wealth because it all goes back anyways. The guy dies or the woman dies that has that wealth. And then we hit it again with state tax. You get it back. And during their life...
No, we Republicans keep trying to lower the estate tax or get rid of it altogether.
Lifetime, they should be able to enjoy their success, unfettered because they took the risk to create, what people keep forgetting on this issue. And Elon Musk is often used as the example, nearly the wealthiest man on earth now. How many jobs has he created? How much tax has
Not that many. Honestly, not that many.
he paid?
Not that much.
I mean, if we didn't have him, would there be Starlink?
Yes.
Would there be, Tesla?
Yes. Because he didn't start either of those 2 companies.
No. Would there be all this innovation in robotics? No.
Yes.
let's punish him for his success.
But
let's
I think
make
he would
damn
be.
sure.
I think he would be fine with $100 billion.
No,
He's
he
not
wants to
on the
use that
streets.
money to. He's not. He lives in a shack somewhere. He doesn't care.
We're totally
guys. Elon lives in a shack. By the way, this thing that he's saying too, like he's like Elon needs that money. When was the last time Elon Musk used his own money to buy a company? Tesla, I think, is the last one. He uses his stock as leverage to buy companies. He's not putting his own money into these companies. Ironically, what he's saying is like Elon needs that money so he can buy these other companies. Well, he didn't use a single dollar of his own money to buy Twitter. How'd that happen?
Okay, we don't
We're
actually believe in
joking.
a wealth tax. Yeah, no.
Well,
we're just trying to bait you. Yeah,
I get it.
We just
but
thought this was a
you're
fun
not-
discussion.
You're not going to hell, then, and you're lucky. But
I was trying to hold back the laughter.
The whole issue is, and he said this publicly, I need that capital to deploy the next mission.
What are you saying? You love how we love to spend other people's money. What the fuck do you think debt spending is? What do you think the Republicans driving us into debt right now? Where do you think we're getting that $2 billion a day we're spending to bomb the fuck out of Iran? Where do you think that money comes from? Is that other people's money? It's crazy. Like, if you tax people more, we won't have a deficit. And this is how goddamn dumb the Republican Party has made all of you dipshits. They're like, we don't tax, we keep taxes low. Yeah, and then you increase the fucking deficit, which has interest on it. It's like saying, like, I'm keeping more of my income by paying the minimum payment on my credit card every month. And then you're paying interest on that credit card payment every month. And then you're adding to it. So each year you had $1,000 last year. Now you have $1,500. And you're paying interest on that every time. Every year it's going up $500. And you're like, yeah, but my checking account, I have $1,000. Cool. Cool. You're spending it the same way. You're just spending it worse. You're spending it with interest, and you're deflecting that and making sure that future generations pay for that. Please do not do this like both sidesism shit. Both sides spend way too much money. The Republicans just play this dirty trick on their own voters and convince you that they're not spending as much because they don't take in as much. They're just not very smart with the way that they spend their money because we have to pay interest on all of it. And that provides leverage for other countries. Remember Trump messing with Japan and trying to slap tariffs on Japan. What did Japan say? They're like, okay, we'll start selling off our debt. We'll stop buying your debt. Then what? And Trump's like, oh, no, maybe we ought to reconsider. Maybe we should reconsider those tariffs. The amount of debt that we have has decreased our leverage. But you do not get to be the Republican Party and complain about higher taxes because one way or the other, it's going to be taken. One way or the other, we have to pay for that. You just don't want to pay for it in the moment. You just want to put all of our wars on layaway. It's a remarkably stupid strategy by Republicans. We'll tell the people that they're going to keep more of their money and then we'll just skyrocket the national debt. Yeah, it's fine. They're all really fucking stupid. They won't figure it out. And then you guys are here just like, that's true. We are really fucking stupid. You guys like spending other people's money. I don't know what you think's going on right now. I don't know how you think the government like pays for shit. It's always other people's money. But you know whose money it is first? Ours. It's why it doesn't have your name on it. It doesn't have my name on it. Pull out some currency. What does it say? Does it say the Treasury on it? Yeah, so they kind of put it out, right? You're using their money. You do labor and you get their money. It's not yours. You don't own it. Can you burn it? Can you destroy it? No, you can't do that. So it's not yours, right?
And he's turned it from Mars to being the moon just in the last 2 weeks. I want to give him his...
I love it. We don't want to cut fraud and billions in spending. Either do you. Either do you, Republicans. You haven't cut any motherfucking fraud. Your politicians haven't cut any fucking fraud. You cut programs you don't like and increased spending everywhere else. And where you give the most money is to the military and now ICE, who can't pass fucking budgets. There is one budget that has more fraud in it than any other budget, and it's the military budget. Where's the audit on that? No, you're just throwing more money at the military. You do not give a fuck about fraud. You haven't cut any fucking fraud. In fact, even we'll get to Nick Shirley in a minute, but even the fraud that Nick Shirley found already fucking knew about, and it was already being addressed, and it's continuing to be addressed. This is how easy it is for conservatives to maintain power. It's because you are so fucking obsessed with Democrats that your party can do the exact same thing right in front of your faces and you don't see it. Go look at the debt by president. Go look at it. Go look at deficit spending by president. You guys run up the deficit more than Democrats. You don't have any moral ground here. You don't have a leg to stand on. You are fiscally more irresponsible. You don't pass budgets. You waste more money. You commit more fraud. And it's not even fucking close. This is why America can't have good things, because they just have to tell you dumb shit and your dumb fuck mind's like, Like they do this all the time. They're like, left-wingers are violent. Okay, like 70% of political violence comes from the right. And they never talk about it. They just point to the left. Where does our debt come from? Like 50% of our debt has come from two presidents, Trump and Bush. 50%, because they cut taxes and then increase spending. But we don't talk about that. Why? Well, because Democrats want to take some money from the rich people to actually pay our bills. Do you know how fucking stupid your argument is? Your argument is that we are in debt and we can't pay our bills. So what we should do is we should take in less money, especially from the rich people. The rich people should get to keep more of their money because we're in debt. We should definitely not take any of that money, despite the fact that, like, show me a billionaire. This guy doesn't exist if we don't give him government handouts. Tesla fails if he doesn't get government handouts. Solar City, which failed anyway, fails if we don't give him government handouts. He doesn't have SpaceX if we don't hand him NASA, if we don't take all of these people from NASA that we trained, that we paid for, that we educated, that we gave decades of experience to, and we handed them over to Elon Musk. This is the biggest welfare queen in the history of the United States, and you dumb motherfuckers still keep thinking that you are fiscally conservative and that you are not the ones who are running up the deficit at faster rates. It is alarming how goddamn dumb they have made you. You've got to be better than this. You have to be. For the sake of America, you need to learn how to do basic fucking math. Basic fucking math. If you have $20,000 in debt personally and you make $100,000 a year, should you take a job making $60,000 a year to fix that debt? Would that solve your problem? No, it sure as shit wouldn't. And you can point to USAID and Doge, you can be like, look at this money we spent. Every fucking dollar that they cut out of USAID has been spent somewhere else on new programs and then some. This president has cut spending where he didn't like it and increased it where he liked it and then cut taxes. So he has less revenue and more spending, just like every Republican ever. You do not, in this live, get to talk about fiscal responsibility, fraud, waste, abuse, or currency, because you're too goddamn dumb for the fucking conversation. And I mean that respectfully. You just are. You're not equipped for any of this. There is no scenario where anybody, without being able to assign like politics, could look at the time when Republicans are in charge and the time when Democrats are in charge and go, it's clear that the Republicans do a better job with the economy. Every fucking time you guys have power for more than for 8 straight years, we get a recession. Every time. Every time you get in power, deficit spending skyrockets. Every time. Every time then a Democrat gets in office, deficit spending goes down. Every time. You literally have all of the data wrong. It's just vibes, vibes, vibes. And why? Why do you feel this way? Because these guys pay your politicians, and then your politicians tell you that you can't tax these guys more or else you won't have any money. And you scared little bitches go out and repeat that shit. For no fucking reason. There is no data that says if you tax the richest people in this country that they will go somewhere else, that innovation will dry up. In fact, Decades of data, centuries of data say the exact fucking opposite. That if you tax wealthy people at a very high percentage on a progressive tax, that money winds up in the pockets of Americans, not the government. Americans. Why? Because if you put a wealth tax on here, let's say after $10 million, every dollar these people make, it gets taxed at 90%. Their only way to offset the amount that they pay to the government is instead to give that money to the people that work for them. It's their only way. And you say, like, what if they leave? Who fucking cares? Honest to God, who fucking cares if they leave? They're sucking up all the resources. Do you honestly, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that these people are geniuses and innovators and that they're solving world problems, and at the same time say that the only reason they're solving these world problems is to become fucking billionaires. I know this because we have scientists in this country. Everything Elon Musk is doing, whether it be Tesla, whether it be SpaceX, whether it be AI, every single thing he's doing is built off of the backs of scientists who don't do the job to become billionaires. They do the job because they fucking love it. And then he capitalizes off of their research and tells you how important he is. He is not important to the United States. We are better off without Elon Musk in this country and people like Elon Musk in this country. They steal everybody else's labor and then they hoard all the capital. Quick, tell me in the chat, there is exactly one patent that Elon Musk owns from Tesla. Do you know what it is? What did Elon Musk do for Tesla? Does anybody know? Tell me one thing that he was able to do on the development of Tesla. You know that he bought that company, right? Cybertruck, nope, didn't do that. Wipers, even dumber. There you go. A couple people got it. The charging port. And not even the charging port, the technology. The fucking shape. The shape of the charging port. That is the only thing that he added to Tesla outside of capital investment. He didn't invent anything. He's not an inventor. He's not a fucking genius. He's pretty goddamn smart. He's just a capitalist. Kevin O'Leary, what value does Kevin O'Leary provide? Nothing. He's a vulture capitalist. It's very annoying to watch you guys just ignore every bit of financial data possible to say, we're fiscally responsible. It's the Democrats that are the problem. Get these dudes' dicks out of your mouth. They probably can't finish anyways. That's why Elon always has to do other means to procreate. Trudy said, RTP is really triggering the bootlickers today. We'll trigger them all day. You know what the bootlickers won't do today? They won't come up here and provide an argument that's any different. They can't come up here and say, actually, you're wrong, and here's some data to prove that you're wrong. Shane said, remind them that Trump added $1 trillion to the debt in 5 months. Well done. Well done. K-Dog wants you to know liberal streamers are getting paid by a terrorist organization to agitate online. And that just a reminder, I am a paid terrorist agitator live streaming here. And if you would like to help continue paying terrorists, and if you yourself are a terrorist, feel free to donate to our cause so that K-Dog can be correct that I'm just a liberal streamer being paid by a terrorist organization, which is pretty cool. And also a reminder, Antifa dues are coming up. Is today the last day of March? Oh, no, we got one more. It's the 31st tomorrow. That was maybe the 30th today. All right, we'll continue this.
As much money, because if you look at executional skills, show me anywhere on earth where there's a person like that. And thank goodness he doesn't live in Russia.
Like Elon? China. BYD is way better than Tesla. And like 5 or 6 years ago, there's a famous video of Elon Musk like mocking BYD, like nobody wants to buy a BYD, and now they are miles past Tesla. I think I saw they have like a supercharger now that can charge your car in 5 minutes. I have an electric vehicle, and even the fastest chargers around me, it's like I don't charge it over 80% because it's supposed to help your battery. I have no idea if that's true or not. But it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for me to charge my car. We're talking about in minutes now. BYDs can be charged. Some of them are like amphibious. They go fast. They have a car that like jumps over potholes. If it sees a pothole, it like jumps over it. Yeah, they're miles ahead of Elon Musk. What has Tesla done different? Like Tesla is basically stood still. Their cars look exactly the same for the past like 8 years. It's impossible. Show me the difference between a 2017 Model 3 and a 2022 Model 3. They look exactly the same. They haven't innovated anything forever. They just like they were a little bit ahead of BYD at the beginning, and now everybody's catching up to them. In fact, I was just with a friend of mine. We went fishing last week, and she drives a Tesla, and I drive a Kia. And she's like, "Your Kia is way nicer. Like the Kia is way nicer than the Tesla. It drives better. It's not as loud. Like the ride is smoother. It doesn't feel as cheap." Like, yeah. So Kia's caught them too. Probably Hyundai. I don't know. I haven't driven that many electric vehicles.
Or in China. Or in, North Korea. He's here in America because he wants to pursue the American dream. The reason those countries, you think about even Europe, if you have a great idea and you're sitting in France, you get on a plane and you go to Texas. That's where you make it happen.
No. Who? Give me an example. Who came up with a good idea in another country and moved to Texas, made it work?
As far back as the V2 rockets when they were, German.
This is my favorite revisionist history. This one's my favorite. Hold on. Sorry.
Get on a plane and you go to Texas. That's where you make it happen. Even as far back as the V2 rockets, when they were, Germans, they came to America and set up NASA. We bring the geniuses here because they.
Yeah, I wonder why.
What do you think of the wealth tax?
They want to live in
because
freedom.
Jack, we were having a discussion earlier, believes.
What the hell? That happened.
We bring the geniuses here because they.
That was weird. How'd that happen? Why do you think all of these rocket scientists came to the United States? Operate. We're doing Operation Paperclip revisionism now. Yeah, there was like this war. It was a pretty big war. And Germany was like they were a world power. I can't remember what happened, but something happened in like the late 40s, early 50s that made Germany not a world power anymore. And all these rocket scientists didn't really have anything to do anymore. Does anybody remember what happened there?
Want to live in freedom and they want to be rewarded the American dream. Look, I'm very stalwart on this. I'm very focused on it. And
I can't unsee that now. Whoever said that he's wearing two watches. He is dressed like a fucking idiot. This suit, this necklace, the rings, double watches. You're right. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That policy, I rage against it.
Yeah. All right. So it was good to see a fake argument where the capitalists, all three capitalists somehow lost to their April Fool's joke. Dustin said, agitate more, K-Dogs, bitch ass, Soros, buck incoming. Thank you. Appreciate that. We do like to trigger. Swampy said, paid protests and agitation holding up the economy. That's right. The American economy is completely held up by paid agitators and paid protesters. And shout out to everybody who got paid this weekend at the No Kings protests. Last I checked, Soros was giving out $10K for each person. So appreciate that, Georgie. Chris said, here's to Antifa terror bucks, because fuck that dude. Thank you, guys. Whatever you do, don't make MAGA mad by giving your terrorist money to me. That makes them the most mad. Dolphin said, fellow terrorist here. Supporting my favorite terrorist streamer. Keep spreading your message, by the way. Tried to get you to a live last night where Sasha Riley was speaking. Oh, yeah. I just don't go on TikTok. If I'm not live, I apologize to everybody who tries to get me to join TikTok live. I'm just not in the mood. By the time I'm done with this, I don't want to be on TikTok. I kind of hate it there sometimes. Chelsea, thank you for the donation as well. All right, moving on here. Sorry in advance. We're just doing it. Nick Shirley spoke at CPAC. And I don't know how to explain this unless, like, if we have some Mormons or former Mormons here, I don't know how to explain this to any of you. I've tried to figure out like a clever way, but he is giving a sacrament speech. This is a Mormon, we would call it a talk. There's no paid clergy in the Mormon church. So on Sundays during like sacrament meeting, they do like the sacrament and then there's speakers and they're assigned. It's usually people from the congregation. You're assigned a topic and you give a speech and you literally start it with like, today I was asked to speak about, and then you say it. I don't know how to explain this other than if you're a Mormon, you're going to recognize the cadence and the rhythm of how Nick Shirley gives this speech at CPAC. To everybody else, it might just feel normal, but this is the most like Mormon cadenced speech you'll ever see outside of Mormonism. Romney used to do it too. If you guys are familiar with like how Romney would speak, it was a very like he was a great Mormon speaker.
Thank you.
Sounds Jehovah's Witness to you? Okay.
Thank you. I'm super.
The Dogs of Doge is the name of his speech. The Dogs of Doge with Nick Shirley. Had nothing to do with Doge, old Nick Shirley. I don't know what the dogs is about. That might be a Kristi Noem thing. I'm not sure why that's the name of his speech, other than he was going to dick ride Elon for a lot of it.
Excited to be here and to be able to speak to you guys today. And I'm not here to speak on behalf of Republicans nor Democrats. I'm here to speak on behalf of we the people. I think nowadays we can all agree that we all just want to live the American dream and have the best life possible. However, it feels that sometimes, actually a lot of times, non-controversial issues are becoming controversial inside of America. For instance, if you take a look at the idea of deporting illegal migrants, that word is illegal. That should not be controversial. Or the idea that showing your ID to vote has become controversial.
That had to have been his mom there. He's just recycling like, what are you talking about, Nick? You can say illegal immigrant if you want to. You can say it. Nobody's telling you can't say it. It's just dumb. Like, why not say undocumented? That's more accurate.
That's not controversial either. The idea that...
Also, if something is controversial, that means that there's differing opinions on it. Saying something's not controversial that's obviously controversial is a very dumb fucking thing to say. And it's a very like Republican coded thing to say. Nobody actually cares about this as people care about it. Like, yeah, they care.
Fraud is bad has become controversial. How is that controversial?
It's not.
I know a little bit about fraud. I know a little bit.
My mom got busted for fraud.
About Minnesota daycares as well. And it's crazy to think that we live in a world where somebody who exposes fraud can then be painted as the bad man from the politicians where he exposed the fraud.
I appreciate the chat. Like, you got proving the point. Some people say undocumented immigrants. Some people say illegal immigrants. That means, by definition, it is controversial. If you say something that somebody else doesn't, and there's controversy about which term you should use, by definition, that is controversial. Republicans just want things to be their way, and they just rule out anybody else's opinion and say it's not controversial. You got to figure out what words mean. If a lot of people disagree with you, your opinion is controversial.
Shouldn't they be excited to know that the fraud is being exposed, because that's not a Republican dollar or a Democrat dollar, it's actually our dollars. I've never gotten a dollar bill that says right or red or blue or right or left. We all live inside of the same country, and we should all want the best for our country. And when you see fraud inside of our country taking place at literally rampant levels, for instance, in Minnesota.
Literally rampant levels. His vocabulary is remarkably small. Even for a CPAC speaker. That's a small vocabulary. The reason I want to show this, at no point in 10 minutes of the speech will he ever give any evidence of the fraud that he uncovered. We're still waiting. We have the Minnesota video. We have the California video. I'm still waiting for evidence of fraud. And if you're here and you're like, he did expose fraud, I'm concerned you also don't know what fraud is. Or evidence, either of those two words.
There were programs like autism, where you have 10,000% increases in the budget for autism, and this money then goes into the hands of fraudsters. How does somebody not look at that and say, there's a 10,000% increase in the budget for autism? Is there a 10,000% increase in autistic children inside of our neighborhoods?
This is a Republican brain. This is how Republican brains work. If there's a 10,000% increase in funding for children with autism, one, tell us how long that data runs for. Was it 40 years? Was it 30? Was it 20? Are we better at identifying autism now? Are we more familiar with like the spectrum? Are you including things like ADHD and OCD and ADD? Are you including that in that funding? Do you understand how inflation works? Did you account for inflation there? See how none of this means it? Like, this is how like dumb-brained and dumb-coded Republican talking points are, and this is why they consistently say things like common sense. The scenario he just laid out didn't really tell me anything. Dyslexia, thank you. Yeah, that didn't tell me anything. In order to have an increase of 10,000% in funding doesn't mean you have to have an increase of 10,000% in people who are diagnosed with autism. But that's why this guy does well on the right, because people hear that and they're like, oh, that makes sense. That makes total sense. And again, it's not to say that there isn't fraud. It's not to say that there's not people who, like, I know for a fact that in Minnesota, they have documented cases of people going to parents whose children were not diagnosed with autism, didn't necessarily have autism diagnosis. There were doctors who were willing to like give out that diagnosis, and they would kick back money to the parents by having their parents go to a doctor and have the doctor diagnose them with autism, and then there was fraud committed. We know that for a fact. In fact, that happened here in Arizona. It's really hard in Arizona to get an ADHD diagnosis. Somebody asked the other day about like getting an ADHD diagnosis, because I did it like 5 or 6 years ago, but they've really cracked down on that here because too many people, they feel, were being diagnosed with ADHD. I haven't seen the data on it, so I don't have an opinion on whether or not it was or wasn't too many. But I can tell you that I went through a clinic that still exists, and it was a real like not stressful, but it was like I went twice. It was like an hour one day. It was like an hour the next day. 2 hours sitting with doctors. I went through a whole bunch of testing. I have another friend who basically just like went to his doctor and was like, I can't remember things, and got diagnosed. So yeah, there's no question that there are people willing to make money off of this type of funding. There's no question that there's an amount of fraud in that 10,000% increase. In order for us to fix any of that shit, Nick, you have to tell us where the fuck the fraud is coming from, how the fraud is being performed, and then we got to figure out how to stop it. But Nick can't go that far because he's really fucking dumb. And I mean like really, 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 really fucking dumb. And so he just goes, there's more funding. That means it's fraud. And the people watching are like, yep, that's what it means. Even if you acknowledge that it's not all fraud, what's the solution Republicans are offering here? What solution have Republicans offered in Minnesota? I heard Republicans, Mike Johnson talking about California, what they should do in California, that they should put a moratorium on these licenses and that they should investigate these accusations of fraud. Cool story, Mike Johnson. They did that 3 years ago. That's literally what California did. They said, no more hospice companies. There's a moratorium on new licenses, and we're going to investigate. And it's going to take years for us to investigate all these different hospices. So until we've done these investigations, there's a moratorium. Great stuff. Great stuff, Republicans. Nick Shirley reports on something that California figured out 3 years ago. They came up with a solution. Nick reports on it as if it's new, then says there's no solution. And then Mike Johnson's like, I have a solution. And now we have the solution and the problem that we already knew about. And Nick Shirley can't explain it other than there's more diagnosis, or there's more funding, so that means the funding percentage and the diagnosis percentage went up at the same time.
And if the answer is no, how are they justifying a 10,000% increase in the budget?
I don't know, Nick. How are they? Could you tell us, independent journalist Nick? Could you give us an answer on that? Or are you just going to keep asking questions? That's what you're supposed to do, dude. That's the journalist part of you. Tell us. Give us an answer. We could have Googled that shit same way you did.
And in other instances, like California, where you have
Amy said, so does that mean Trump is an illegal citizen? Yes.
1,000% increase in hospices. Is everyone going to die in LA? I don't think so. So the idea that here inside the United States, when we have these non-controversial issues that have become controversial, it puts us into a weird culture.
Is this John? If anybody wants to explain this to John Johnson, John, about 9 months before Nick Shirley did his investigation into the fraud in Minnesota, I covered it on this show. See, the local CBS affiliate in Minnesota had covered it, and they covered it in far more depth than Nick Shirley. This is what we're saying about you. And this is why, like, you living in these dumb fuck echo chambers where a dumb fuck like Nick seems smart to you is hurting you, and it's hurting our country. Because you don't know that other people reported all this stuff before Nick. I was on that story long before Nick. CBS Local was on it long before Nick, and they found actual documented instances of fraud that have been investigated. They actually helped undermine the fraud ring in Minnesota. Nick literally has found no fraud. 0.00 dollars in fraud is what Nick has found. And if you guys didn't live in an echo chamber where your dumbasses have been convinced that anybody on the left is just lying so you don't need to listen to them, you would have known a year before Nick Shirley brought this investigation out that it was happening. You can go back. CNN covered it. CBS covered it. ABC covered it. Fox News covered it. MSNBC covered it. New York Times covered it. All the Minnesota newspapers covered it. Washington Post covered it. Literally everybody covered it. And you guys didn't find out until this dumb kid did. It should be embarrassing to you, but it's not. It should be. You should have some pride, but somehow it's not.
War where it puts people into a position to think, okay, well, wait, how are you supporting this when you're actually not benefiting we the people? We all live inside of the United States. We're not supposed to be, when elected officials elected,
again,
they're not supposed to
count the number of answers he's come up with. 0. He's asked about 40 fucking questions with no answers.
to represent 50% of the population. They're supposed to represent 100% of the population. In an instance where fraud is taking place inside our country, each and every single person should want to crack down on that fraud. Because if we don't, these people can continue just to literally steal our dollars, and He's
so bad. Brady said, "Be kind, doll. I'm a few minutes behind today. You're so hot when you crash out on MAGA." Thank you. And Jen responded by saying, "Ooh, gross." How dare you, Jen? Let people say I'm hot. It's fine. I want to go back to this. He's so bad at this.
Don't. These people can continue just to literally steal our dollars, and they steal our dollars, and then they send it overseas, and once it's overseas, we can't ever get that money back. And that's something that I've learned as I've gone about exposing this fraud. And a lot of times, these people that are taking our tax dollars are foreigners who are not even...
He actually didn't find that out in any of his investigations. He just said that. He just presumed that Somalis were sending the money back. Some are. He actually didn't find any of that out through his investigations. That's just something somebody else told him. This is your dude. This is legitimately your best journalist. He can barely speak in full sentences.
From the United States of America, and they're stealing our money. And it's just been so...
Uh-oh, wait, hold on. How do we square this now? If you tax billionaires more, that is theft. Because it's their money, they earned it. If immigrants make, in this case, he's talking about Somalis, legal immigrants make money and decide to send it to their friends or family or relatives, church leaders in another country, that's theft from you. You guys want to square that for me? How come it's theft if immigrants send money back home? But it's not theft if billionaires hoard the wealth. If we tax the billionaires, that's the government stealing from them. But if immigrants choose to spend their money however they want, then they are stealing from us. You guys want to explain that? Billionaires earn the money, but not immigrants that are running businesses? Okay. Yeah, that's true. Billionaires never commit fraud. I forgot about that. I forgot that none of these billionaires commit fraud. Somehow Elon Musk is able to pay no income tax. But he's for sure not committing fraud. The richest man in the world doesn't make any money. Did you know that? Isn't that crazy? How somehow Elon Musk is the richest man in the world and also doesn't make any money? How did that happen? Definitely not fraud, though, right? It's definitely not fraud. By the way, by your definition, illegal immigrant, Elon Musk, should be deported. And in fact, we should probably confiscate all of his money. He came here. He took investment opportunities from American citizens. He's racked up hundreds of billions of dollars. Or what's he worth now? I don't even know what he's worth. Billions and billions of dollars in personal net worth. Just stole right from American citizens as an illegal immigrant. Why don't we just deport Elon and take all of his money? You're afraid Elon will leave? Well, he should leave. He came here, he cut the line, cheated. Didn't we get rid of him? 800-ish, thank you.
Crazy to see how in all 50 states there is fraud. However, it seems to be that most of the fraud is in a lot of these blue cities. And when
Which two cities did you go to, Nick? Blue cities? The fraud seems to only be in the places where I investigated. It's all over in every state, but it only seems to be in the two cities that the Republicans keep paying me to go to. Isn't that weird?
you go out and expose the fraud.
To be clear, Elon, if you're wondering why I say Elon's an illegal immigrant, no, he didn't overstay his visa. Elon Musk came here on a student visa and started a business. And on a student visa, you're not allowed to work. You have to go to school. And if you quit going to school, you are now here for a purpose that you did not declare, and you are now here illegally. So when Elon Musk started working instead of going to school, he was here illegally. And if you have a problem with that, like now we got to start explaining, if you think, oh, well, keep him because he's working, now we've got to explain what ICE has been doing the last year and a half. Because isn't that what ICE is raiding workplaces? We got to get rid of Elon, right? If you support mass deportations, if they're here illegally, they got to go home. Get rid of Elon. He's got to go. Take all of his assets, seize them. He earned them illegally. It's a good point. Elon isn't working.
I mean, I think Gavin Newsom, he posted a photo of me the other day and had 10 cameras on me, an AI-generated image saying, "Where are the kids?" trying to depict me as a pervert for exposing fraud. How
kind of seems like you interpreted it as a pervert, but yeah, it is weird. It is weird that you go around asking where kids are and lie to people like, I'm going to bring a kid in this daycare. And they're like, you don't have a kid, you have cameras. It is weird. I'd be very upset if you showed up to my child's daycare with cameras.
How sick does the government...
Oh, sorry. Alicia said, I get secondhand embarrassment watching Nick Shirley speak. Also suggestion for movie night, Deconstructing Karen. I'll add it to the list.
You have to be to say that the kid exposing the fraud is the bad person versus the fraudsters that are stealing the money.
For the record, I don't think Nick's necessarily a bad person. I think he's too stupid to even really be that bad of a person. I just think he's really fucking stupid.
And going through this experience of exposing this fraud, I finally came to understand why, for instance, why they attack Elon Musk so hard, why they burn down his factories, or why they burn down his cars, or why they attack.
They didn't. Nobody burned down Elon Musk's factories. But here comes the Elon gobbling.
Attack him so much when he was simply exposing fraud to help every single citizen. Well, it just happens to be that these politicians don't want the fraud to be exposed because they're involved in the fraud.
Who was involved in the fraud, Nick? Actually, let's ask you guys, which politician did Elon expose that was involved in fraud? Can you guys help me out there? Help Nick out here? Who was it? I was just complaining. No, I said he's gobbling Elon, not talking about Elon, gobbling Elon, shoving Elon's dick into his mouth. Elon Musk sucks. Elon Musk he's not good for America. It's not a net benefit to have Elon Musk here. Who was it? Tim Walz? Okay, 3D Productions. How did you connect Tim Walz to the fraud that Elon Musk uncovered? Actually, just tell me one piece of fraud that Elon Musk uncovered. You guys know any? I bet you can't do it. I bet there's not a single person here who can name fraud uncovered by Elon Musk and Doge. We'll wait for it. You know how you can't see wind, but you know it's there, just kind of the same thing? No, fraud and wind are not the same thing. That's fucking dumb. You can feel wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it, and it moves things. It moves the trees around you. If you're wearing clothes, it will move the clothes. If there's dust, it will move dust. It is not the same thing as wind. That was a dumb thing you said. USAID frauds. What ones? Which ones? What fraud did he uncover under USAID? Come on, Republicans, this is your chance. We got this. Tell me specifically what fraud was uncovered by Elon Musk. 140,000 employees. That's not fraud, dipshit. Good try, rib tip. How are you wrong every time? I don't believe in God, so why are you talking like the devil? Like I know the devil. What the fuck? Jesus. One of you, come on, guys, hurry. Tell me one piece of fraud that Elon Musk uncovered. This should be easy for you. He uncovered so much. NGO fraud. Explain that, Matt. What do you mean NGO fraud? Give me a specific instance of NGO fraud. Why should we tell you you'd be denied always anyways? Yeah, shut up. You don't know. Just answer the question. Social Security fraud. Where was the Social Security fraud? You guys just going to say stuff? Give me an example of a piece of fraud that he uncovered. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Bunky. He said, I'm informed. Nick is out there trying to expose billions in fraud. I agree with that. Nick is trying. He's too fucking stupid to do it. When we covered Nick's videos, we actually explained what the fraud was. There is fraud in California. There is hospice fraud. There is fraud in daycares in Minnesota. And we explained it because Nick can't. You're just a cheerleader. 550 million decade-long bribery scheme. What bribery scheme? USAID. Yeah, we already did. What part of USAID, Robert? Not one of you? Where's the charges? He uncovered this fraud, and then the Trump Department of Justice didn't charge anybody for that? Okay, that's why Vance created a new fraud committee. Okay, great, Lisa. Who have they got so far? Who's the Trump administration locked up so far? Who have they charged with fraud? Who? EBT fraud. Who, Bunky? Who got charged with fraud? Give me a name. All you guys, give me one name of a person who's been charged with fraud. I'm reading the comments. Give me a name. You can come up here, by the way. Any of you guys, if you feel like you're being ignored, just come up here. Message JenDub1, same as the Venmo username on Discord. She can bring you up. Cat D, come on up. Jane Batista. What the fuck is Jane Batista? Look that up. It was COVID fraud, and that happened under the Biden administration. It's in 2020. Okay. It was 2024, so that wasn't Elon Musk. You can look at it here. See the date there. That was under the Biden administration. Good job. Looks like the Biden administration found one. Ilhan Omar hasn't been charged with anything. Anybody else? Give me some names. So far, one name, and it was Joe Biden, and they got it. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. Ilhan Omar hasn't been charged with fraud. Try again. Rick Scott. Yeah, there's a good one. Rick Scott got charged with Medicare fraud. You guys don't have one name? What fraud? We're trying to figure out, because you guys all said that Nick Shirley just said Elon exposed fraud. Nick Shirley has exposed fraud. We just want one name of somebody either Nick Shirley or Elon Musk has exposed for committing fraud. Just one name. Omar is guilty. Hell yeah. Of what? Still no names? Karina Shuliak. Look that name up. Karina Shuliak. I don't see any fraud here. This was somebody that was Epstein's old girlfriend. I don't see anything with fraud there. All right, what do we got? Roderick Watson. Roderick Watson. All right, let's see what this is. This from the Justice Department. USAID official and 3 corporate executives plead guilty to decade-long bribery scheme involving more than 550 in contracts. When did this start? Let's see if I can find a name. Looks like they were 4 men, including a government contracting officer for the United States government, USAID, and 3 owners, yada, 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 guilty for a decade-long bribery scheme involving at least 14 prime contracts worth 550 million. Do we have when they started the investigation? Depending on when they started it, let's see, when did this start? Let me get this guy's name here. We might have found one. Who was that? Raise your hand if that was you that gave us that one. Did we find one finally? I don't know if we have a start date there. The only one I find so far is a Facebook thread that says it started in 2015, the investigation. The actual bribery scheme itself started in 2013. So it probably has been under investigation for a long time. Let's call that half credit. We'll move on there. There we go. We'll give you half credit. Congratulations, MAGA. You got one. Appreciate it. Walter. We'll do one more. Walter Barnes. Walter Barnes do. That's USAID. Was he part of this one? I think that's the same one, isn't it? I think that guy's in with the same. It's the same number. Oh, wait. This is interesting, too. Both of them, by the way, were started by the OIG, not from referrals from Elon Musk. The OIG initiated both of those. So, cool. Nothing. All right. We got it, though. 2 people. I'm not going to keep doing this, but we'll get back to Nick Shirley.
And nowadays, since I've posted that video, my life has changed. It changed a little bit. I'm speaking here in front of all you guys, so thank you. But my life changed a little bit because the idea that a governor, for instance, Gavin Newsom, can go ahead and post that photo, and everyone knows that I'm not the bad man for exposing the fraud, but a small group will then think, wow, that kid is a bad person. He is what they're trying to depict me to be.
What if we just think you're stupid? What if we think that you're racist and stupid? Can we say that? Are we not allowed to criticize Nick Shirley because he's trying his very best to expose fraud? I think that Nick Shirley is dumb, and I think that he's racist. And I think that if you can go back and watch the other Nick Shirleys, like, he is racist. He believes that people with brown or dark skin are that way because God put a curse on them. That's his legitimate beliefs. So I don't really I don't care what anybody do. Like, try and defend him all you want, but he believes that he is white because his ancestors followed Jesus, and anybody with darker skin has dark skin because they were cursed by God. Those are his just real beliefs. So yeah, I get to say that he's racist and also stupid. Those are my biggest problems with Nick Shirley. Perhaps my biggest problem with Nick Shirley is that what Nick Shirley has exposed is how fucking stupid Americans are, specifically conservative Americans, that they can be given hour-long segments with literally no evidence of fraud and then call this man a hero for exposing fraud without exposing any fraud. Those are my biggest bugaboos here.
That now I have to walk around with security when I go to a city.
What do you mean, oh, stop, he's never said that? It's literally the doctrine of his church. This is a practicing Mormon, and Mormons believe that people with black or dark skin are that way because God cursed them. He is an admitted, self-avowed, practicing Mormon. I was raised Mormon. I know the doctrine. You cannot be Mormon and not believe in that doctrine, especially with what he goes to the temple. He went on a Mormon mission. You are required to believe those things. And if he doesn't believe those things, then he's lying to his clergy in order to be able to go on a mission and go to the temple, because you have to believe that the Book of Mormon is the word of God. You have to believe that the prophets speak to God. And since the prophets have said it and the Book of Mormon says it, you, by definition, cannot be a practicing Mormon and not have racist beliefs.
Or people will try to literally, last time I was in California, I was just there the other day, I couldn't stay at a hotel because last time I was in California, after I posted that fraud video, somebody tried to take a photo and put it into a Reddit group chat, and a group of people were looking for me because I exposed.
You go to people's houses and places of business and videotape them, including children, and then you put that on the internet for millions of people to see. And you are up here at CPAC complaining that people are doing the exact same thing to you.
The fraud. Like that's crazy to think that we live in a society nowadays where somebody going to do a big public service for the country has to worry for their life. And it actually makes me a bit upset, because how have we gotten to that point where we've lost common sense and where non-controversial issues have become controversial? And it's actually...
If they are controversial, then they are by definition not non-controversial. This is why I say Nick is dumb. How did we get to a place where a non-controversial issue was controversial? Because people disagree. That's how you get to that place, Nick.
Very worrisome. And a lot of people come up to me and say, well, Nick, how can we help? Or how do we do what you did inside our own communities? Or how do you have like the courage to go about and do this? And
he's getting paid a lot of fucking money. This is not courage. This guy's dream his entire life was to be a YouTuber. His inspiration were the Paul brothers. He tried to be a YouTuber outside of politics and nobody really gave a shit. Probably because he's dumb. This isn't courage. It doesn't take courage to do what he's doing. But now I want to hear what advice you have, Nick, to stop this fraud.
I've really fallen in love with the quote or the speech from Theodore Roosevelt that's called "The Man in the Arena," and it talks about critics and talks about how like you don't ever worry what a critic does as long as you know you're fighting for a worthy cause, and it doesn't matter if you fail as long as you're working for a worthy cause. But who's to say that you're not the one risking everything, standing there all alone, going about it? And why should you worry about the critics? Why should you worry about the naysayers, or why should you worry?
Because you work in news. And you are doing investigations. And the way that you find out whether or not what you're doing is right or wrong, and I'm not talking about morally, is that people criticize you. They check your work. And this is why I say Nick Shirley's not a real journalist. Because he's been caught lying multiple times, and his response to that is, fuck the haters, man. They're just haters. No. You're wrong. Critics are the ones that are going to show you that you're wrong. You're a journalist. You are a critic. That is what your job is if you call yourself a journalist. So what are you saying here, Nick? Should all of these people committing fraud say, fuck the critics? This is the weirdest advice I've ever seen a journalist give. Dismiss everybody who disagrees with you because they're haters, bro.
About the opposition, when you're fighting for a worthy cause, we all are fighting for a worthy cause inside of our communities, with our families, in our churches, at our schools, because a lot of things that we're fighting against are non-controversial issues that have become controversial. No girl should ever have to worry about a man.
For the record, also, The Man in the Arena, it's a famous Roosevelt speech. It's an awesome speech. And it talks about like people having the courage to get involved versus just critiquing from the sideline. Nick is critiquing from the sideline. Nick is not involved in uncovering fraud. Nick is not involved with law enforcement. Nick is not involved with legislation. Nick is the very thing that Roosevelt was criticizing in The Man in the Arena. It's not alarming because, again, Nick is remarkably stupid. But the whole speech is talking about not listening to people like Nick who criticize with no information, which is exactly what he does. He has, again, go watch it. He didn't find any single specific instance of fraud, and yet he declares it fraud. He is what Roosevelt was talking about. He's who Roosevelt said to ignore, and now he's standing up here like a hero as if the speech was about him.
Playing on their sports team. Like, the idea that that's become controversial is insane. And it takes men and women who are ready to become that man in the arena to be able to confront the opposition, to confront those critics. Because if no one does, they will win. And when we're fighting for common sense issues that aren't controversial, but nowadays have become controversial, each one of us have to step up and become that person who steps in the arena and says, I don't care what they say, or I don't care what...
Okay, so who is fixing the fraud in California? Who is fixing the fraud in Minnesota? Not Nick. They already put a moratorium on hospice licenses like 3 years ago. They've already put people in jail. They're continuing to put people in jail. Same with Minnesota. Those are the men in the arena that Roosevelt was talking about. Those are the civil servants who, despite the fact that it's going to be unpopular, and despite the fact that a lot of those civil servants, by the way, have been accused of the same thing that I accused Nick of, in being racist, but they're being accused of being racist because it happens to be, at least in the Somali community, that a lot of the fraud was targeted at Somalis. And so you wind up with Somali immigrants who are included in committing the fraud, and Somali immigrants who are included maybe unwittingly as helping benefit the fraud, and then you have parents there who committed fraud as well. So those people, ironically, who were just doing their job, who were just following the law, those are the ones that are being criticized for doing the right thing. Nick is not one of them. Nick is not solving any of these problems. Nick is a guy using other people's research to be racist and then being like, I'm so brave.
He or she says, I'm going to do it because it's a worthy cause. And if we don't, because if you don't, the critics will win. And their voices are a lot louder. That's how they try to intimidate you. Imagine if I would have been intimidated by Governor Walz calling me a delusional conspiracy theorist, a far-right white supremacist.
If you were intimidated by somebody calling you names, I would say that you were a bitch. But you're up on stage complaining about how people are doing to you what you have done to others. So I'm still going to say that you're kind of a bitch.
Or all the other things that those politicians called me. In fact, they even incited riots inside their cities for somebody who exposed fraud. Meanwhile, the Leering Center...
Who rioted in Minneapolis because of daycare fraud? That never happened. Is he trying to like take the BLM rallies as like a riot against and maybe this is like the racism, like Somalis, Black Lives Matter. Oh, let's link them. What's he talking about?
Center, it wasn't much to hide. Like, that fraud was very obvious. In fact, the Learning Center then even closed down. They fled the city because they know they're committing fraud. And one thing for you guys to think about is, who are the critics? Who are those people that are saying that you're the bad person, or that
I don't know anybody who is saying Nick is a bad person. I think the criticisms of Nick are pretty clear.
You're doing's not right. Well, a lot of times it's the media. A lot of the times it's that person who listens to the media where they've lost that idea of common
You are the media, Nick. You call yourself a journalist. You are, by definition, media.
sense thinking. And so nowadays, the most important thing I feel like for any of us to do is to think, okay, is the cause I'm fighting for, is it a controversial issue? Or is it actually non-controversial, but it's an issue that has become controversial from the critics?
You wouldn't have to fight for a cause if it wasn't controversial. There would be no fight. If it was non-controversial, you wouldn't be fighting for it. This is what I'm saying. He is so fucking stupid. Ask yourself the question, are you fighting for something that's controversial or something that wasn't controversial, but now it is? Yeah, dude, it wouldn't be a fight. Nobody fights over like non-controversial things.
And we cannot ever pander to the critics, and we have to keep pursuing a worthy cause. Because what we're fighting for is worthy. America is the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, that's a good day for me, Austin.
And
Thanks.
people like to act like it's not, but meanwhile, all the other countries had thousands of years to do it. We had 250 years to do it. And whatever made us the greatest country in those 250 years, we need to make sure that it remains that
Why don't you figure out what made us great there, Nick?
same way, or else we will fall, and the critics
I
will.
have not called him a terrible person. I've specifically called him stupid and racist. I have not said terrible person, but those two qualities I don't find very redeeming.
Win, and we will not stay the greatest country in the world. And so that's my message for you guys today, is to think, really, okay, what cause are we fighting for? Is it a worthy cause? Is it something that's actually not controversial, but maybe the mainstream media or a critic has told me that that's a controversial issue? And when you know it's not, fight and be ready to become the man or the woman in the arena, because if you don't, the critics will win. And this is the greatest country in the world for a reason. We did it in 250 years. Everyone else had thousands of years to do it, and we did that. And so I'm proud to be here today, and I know you guys are all ready to become that man or that woman in the arena, because it is a worthy cause that we are fighting for. Thank you.
Did you notice he never told anybody what the worthy cause was? Did anybody ever notice that? I know you can do it. How is that not the end of every Mormon talk that you ever saw for my ex-Mormons here? Sorry you guys had to watch that. I feel a little bit bad about making you watch that. Okay. What do we got left? About an hour. Yeah, I want to get into some financial stuff real fast. And then just a reminder, we are crowdfunded, so anything you can do to help us knock out that goal. I haven't updated it for a while. Would be great. Amy said, I'm one of those weird people who feel embarrassed for people like Nick. Nick makes me feel so bad. It's so embarrassing for him. Yeah, I would be embarrassed if I was doing that, for sure. If I laid eggs like that repeatedly and didn't know, I would be embarrassed. But that's the thing about Nick. He has no idea that he just laid an egg up there. He feels like he absolutely nailed it. All right, I want to talk about the financial struggles of the American people, and this isn't going to be very fun for the rest of the day. We are not on sound economic footing currently. We have a stock market that is incredibly speculative. It's driven on inflated values and hype. And now we're spending $2 billion a day in Iran. And as a byproduct of that, we're seeing oil prices about to skyrocket. They're already going up, which will drive up the cost of all other goods. What it will also do is create supply and demand issues that will take countries who are poor and decimate those countries, causing mass migration. And at the end of this, after Republicans fuck up the entire world, which is what they love to do, you will see mass migration, and you will see people trying to come to America based on the things that we have done to impact their countries. And then Republicans will fall back into that same old cycle, and they'll be like, the Democrats always do this. They open the borders, and there will be no There will be no revisitation of history to be like, oh, why did those countries struggle? Oh, because we ripped all the oil out of their hands and they didn't have energy anymore. So then they couldn't produce food. They didn't have electricity. And so all these people became homeless and they needed a place to go. So they went to the richest country in the world. And there will be no understanding by Republicans that they're the ones that did that. You never do. None of you recognize that, like the caravans, right? And the open border that we had during Joe Biden. Nobody remembers somehow that in 2019, Trump was campaigning on migrant caravans. That in 2020, he was campaigning on this isn't good. Look at all these people coming to our southern border. Nobody remembers that all started during the Trump administration. We're going to see it again. But we're already in a much less advantageous position here in the United States because most people in the United States now are feeling the pressure. Most people in the United States can barely pay their bills, and many cannot. This is a MS Now Alex Witt report on the state of American economy, and then we'll move into more world economic stuff.
Consumer sentiment is taking a dive as the war in Iran stokes fears of inflation. Now, a month into the war, gasoline prices have skyrocketed and markets are threatening to crack as supply chain disruptions grow. And new concerns today as lawmakers move no closer to ending the DHS shutdown, now in its 44th day, becoming the longest partial government shutdown in U.S. history.
This president has said again, I have the power to pay TSA.
Thanks, Everyday Insanity, for the gifted subs.
Agents, and I'm going to do that. Why didn't he do this weeks ago when we started seeing the suffering of folks at the airports? We've had a unanimous agreement to do what Democrats were saying from the beginning, pay TSA and not let ICE have another dollar when they're reckless and out of control in our neighborhoods around the country. We came to that deal. The Republicans capitulated. We unanimously passed that out of the Senate, and the Republicans rejected it.
Let me push through this. Sorry. This is where I actually
Joining me is Justin Wolfer, is professor of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan. Good to see you again, Justin. So new numbers from the University of Michigan show that U.S. consumer sentiment fell more than expected in March, hitting a 3-month low. What are these numbers telling us about the economy's outlook?
Well, first of all, Alex, the most important University of Michigan number is how we're doing in March Madness, which is fantastic right now. But let's move on to economics.
Good one, Justin.
I think that putting it in the frame of the last few months is interesting, but actually what's even more interesting is that's a survey that's been going for over 60, 70 years. And right now we're at one of the lowest points through that entire post-war history of the United States. So the bigger headline is we are awfully close to being as miserable American consumers as they've been at any point in recorded American history.
So in this last month, the U.S.
Consumer sentiment is important because it's on average. American people feel this, and on top of like that feeling, like this drives productivity. This drives people's willingness to deal with adversity, like rising gas prices. We're at the start of this war with Iran. We haven't suffered the consequences yet of what we've done in Iran, because they don't happen like you don't go to war and then the impact is felt immediately. So far, all we have is rising gas prices, but that hasn't trickled through and flowed through our economy. That hasn't necessarily affected food prices yet. That hasn't affected precious metals. That hasn't affected things like batteries yet, but that stuff's coming. We're starting at historic lows. A year and 3 months into this presidency, we're at historic lows. We're at a lower point now with how consumers are feeling than we were at any point during the Biden administration. This is like we're in for a fucking ride, and this is going to be a global problem for a while. And for you Republicans who don't want to hear this right now, I don't know what your news is telling you right now, but if you think anything other than a lot of economic hard times are on their way, like, think again.
National average per gallon of gas jumped $1, and U.S. crude oil closed at almost $100 a barrel. That was happened on Friday. Analysts warned the Strait of Hormuz.
Which is, by the way, a good time to remember. We've got an hour left. Way off on the gift goal. That's my fault. But if you could help us knock that out, that's how we keep the lights on here. Anything you give, greatly appreciate, and I'll read anything you write. Pink says, Antifa dues, thank you. Christy says, appreciate all that you do. I appreciate that.
Has got to reopen by mid-April or oil supply disruptions will get significantly worse, Justin. So if the strait stays closed, is there anything that will keep energy prices from skyrocketing?
Wow. A funny story for you on exactly this question. 2 or 3 days after the president invaded Iran, it was said that Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, suddenly was running around the White House saying, oh, my goodness, gas prices are going up. Is there anything we can do about it? And the approximate answer is no, or at least not in a very in a particularly quick way. There's long run things like renewable energy and but the president tried a couple of
and we knew that, or we should have known that. The reporting coming out of the White House is that it seems that some people didn't know that was going to happen. I don't know how that happened. But are you telling me as MAGA voters that it's more important to bomb Iran than to protect our already fragile economy, where 60% of Americans are basically living paycheck to paycheck or worse? It was more like the threat posed by Iran somehow was more dangerous than that. Because what it looks like to me is that you have a bunch of people working in this administration who are going to be untouched by any of this. And they don't recognize what Americans are going through. They don't recognize the impact that this is going to have day to day on Americans, and that they misjudged it entirely. That they thought this might be like Venezuela, that we could go in there, decapitate the leadership of Iran, and Iran would just be like, oh, we've had enough, and then quit. That's what it looks like.
It makes pulling oil stuff out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, allowing Americans to buy oil from Russia and in fact from Iran. But most of those are just really small, which is much of the world's oil, roughly a fifth of it, is behind the other side of the Strait of Hormuz, and it's really hard.
Excuse me, if you are talking about Obama or Harris right now, respectfully, you're a bitch. Stay on subject. Address what's happening right now. If you can't explain what's happening right now and you find yourself talking about Obama, then this isn't for you. This live isn't for you. Go somewhere else and play team sports. Anytime you make a decision to invade another country or to bomb another country, it matters what the current economic conditions are before you enter that country. So you can talk about Obama, you can talk about Bush, you can talk about a hypothetical where Harris was. We are at historic lows already. So if you're comparing Obama, one, we didn't do this. We used diplomacy, and we negotiated a deal with Iran, which is exactly what the Trump administration is trying to do now. So it's just going to cost us billions of dollars in American lives and disrupt the entire global economy, when you could have just sat down and had a negotiation in the first place. But we can't do that because Donald Trump is a child. But if you can't talk about this without mentioning other former presidents, then you're not equipped for this. And I highly recommend going somewhere else
to get stuff through. And so you've got less oil for a world that's just as hungry for it. The only way that you can make all of that work is for the oil price to go up to a point where some people will do without.
Well, amid this partial shutdown, you've got airlines that are taking a hit. You've got the fatal crash at LaGuardia last Sunday. You've got some near misses in the skies and on the tarmacs. Security wait lines, I mean, come on, they're terrible. You have 500 TSA agents who've quit. Experts warn, Justin, that some airlines risk their survival if oil prices don't come down soon, and people continue to cancel travel plans. So how
does oil come down with where we're at now? How do these prices come back down? Curious Red Monster said, Oslo human reveal this Wednesday, April 1st. Spoiler alert, it's me. I'm Oslo, the Curious Red Monster. Just supply and demand, right? How would oil prices come down? One, there's suddenly an influx of oil in the markets. Or two, the demand goes down. I don't know how calculated the Trump administration is. I don't know. However, if you were going to be calculated and you wanted to err on the side of rich people, which would make sense to me if you're a Republican, perhaps what you would do is you would make it really difficult to travel. And you would drive down the demand for jet fuel. And if you can drive down that demand with these long lines, unless people book travel and the price of a ticket goes up, you can ostensibly, you can drive down demand and hopefully bring energy prices down elsewhere. What else can you do? If these prices of gas get too high for people to pay on their own, they'll stop driving. The only way out of this is for Americans and people around the world to suffer, or at the very least have less convenience. We're moving into the summer, though. We're moving into a time when energy prices are about to go up for virtually everybody. And you're telling Americans, not only are your normal prices that you're going to see increase in the summer going up, but they're going to be more expensive because we will have less access to energy. This plan makes no fucking sense. It makes absolutely no sense that we are bombing Iran and upsetting the entire global economy for what? This is what happens when you vote for common sense. This is what happens when you let a dipshit like Donald Trump convince you that all these economists and all these scientists are your enemy. And it's all about common sense and drill, baby, drill. And if you don't do what we say, we'll bomb the fuck out of you. And here we are. I don't think they knew. I don't think they're smart enough to know. Honestly, I think that's where we're at. I think this entire administration thought this would be over in a week, and Iran called their bluff, and they're too proud to admit that their bluff has been called.
How concerning is this? And talk about the domino effect that could create.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that we're not going to see the worst of it. We're not going to see airlines going bust as a result of this. If an airline hasn't made plans for how could we survive if oil hits $100 a barrel, then management is so incompetent that they don't really deserve to be there. What's really going to happen is oil prices go up, the price of jet fuel's going up, and you've got the extra price that you're forcing people to pay. They now have to arrive at the airport 1, 2, 3 hours earlier. All of that makes airfares more expensive, and it's going to lead to less flying. So what you might see is a few less flights being scheduled that will hit the profitability of the airlines. It could ultimately hit the employment of airlines, but I think we see everything survive.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. Glad
Yeah, let's hope. I think that's optimistic, and I think I do think there will be enough pressure on Trump at some point very soon that we're going to have to figure out where we go with this war. Amber said, Mr. Global said this administration has a plan for $200 a barrel oil. He doesn't think it will happen, but admits he doesn't know their plans. I'm going to have a Mr. Global video here in just a second. Rebecca said, Antifa dudes, thank you. Alyssa, thanks for the blue hearts. Terry said, I look at gifting like taxes, except voluntary. It's the price of admission into a civilized dialogue. Thank you. Thank you. And Denise says, thanks to you and Jen. I think I got those. All right. On top of oil, which is obviously a problem, we're going to have compound issues coming up. Where's Illusion? Illusion's going to love this. We've been talking for the last 6 months about private equity and the private credit markets. If you're not super familiar with that, private equity obviously is these firms that go and they fund startups. And they have issued a ton of credit. And a lot of that credit has been issued on the backs of stock. And what we're starting to see, we've seen it with BlackRock. We've seen it recently with, what is it? I forget what that car company is. But people are starting to withdraw their money out of these private credit investments. And these private credit investments are saying, no, we can't. We don't have the liquidity for that. To give you just an example, going back to 2008, in 2008, but leading up to the financial crisis in 2008, banks had been highly deregulated throughout the Bush administration and frankly through the Clinton administration as well. And they started taking on really risky loans. And those risky loans were backed, in this case, by mortgage-backed securities. So like a group of mortgages pieced together that you could invest in. So you could invest in a whole group of mortgages, and because house prices continuously climb, you're going to make money on that year over year. It was a very safe investment. But then what happened is they over-leveraged these mortgage investments. So you could take like a mortgage-backed security, which was again a group of mortgages, and you could invest on that. But then they made synthetic collateralized debt obligations. So they'd take like 5 of these different CDOs, and they'd package them together, and then you could bet on those. And then they'd make more synthetic CDOs on top of that. And so what you had like mortgages that had been bet on 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100x. And the banks didn't have the capital that if these investments somehow failed, they would have to pay out these risky bets. And they didn't have that capital even at the time. So even before all of these investments failed, they knew that they had over-leveraged themselves, but they were so sure that this would continue that they were willing to do it, and the government just kept easing restrictions. And we put ourselves into a situation where all these banks were over-leveraged, and it took one tip of the mortgage industry to basically bring all of them crashing down. After 2008, thanks to people like Elizabeth Warren and thanks to the Obama administration, we tightened up a lot of those regulations where the banks aren't allowed to play this game anymore. So what happened? So what do? We created private equity. Now, private equity existed, but not in the same way. And instead of people going to banks to get loans, they found these private equity firms, and they were able to get loans through them. And those loans were made up by who? Investors, people's retirement accounts. You'd throw your money into these private equity firms, and they would loan out money same way as you would any other investment account. The difference is if you had, for example, an investment account through JP Morgan, there were rules. JP Morgan had certain liquidity requirements. They had to be sure that if these investments failed, that they wouldn't go under and you wouldn't lose everything. There aren't those requirements for private equity. They're kind of allowed to just do what they want, which is why now when people that have like Blackstone, for example, are trying to pull their money out, Blackstone can tell them no. Sorry, our terms and conditions are you can't take that money out. We're going to have to ride it out. And so you have all these investments specifically into like AI companies and software companies. And what those AI companies used as their collateral to get these loans was not money, was not land, was not a physical asset. What they used many times was stock. And the stock from all of these tech companies, they're intertwined. And when one falls, they all fall. And so we're in this weird scenario now where all of these private equity companies, they've kind of stopped investing. And they've stopped investing because they don't have any more money. They were getting money from everywhere. Everybody was investing. The Saudis were investing. The Qataris were investing. People have run out, like worldwide, people have run out of money. And so now all of these private equity firms are buttoning it up. They're like, we don't have any more money to invest, so we have to hold on to this so nobody can withdraw. And they're hoping to just ride this out. But if these tech companies start to fall, if they start to, like, if they lose revenue and the public loses faith in them, you can see a domino effect similar to 2008. And the exposure is the same, even though it's not necessarily in the markets that we're used to. The exposure and the domino effect is the same. So just to give you an idea of what private equity is, now we're seeing real, not cracks. We're seeing private equity start to fall. So on top of this oil crisis that we have, where we're driving up costs amongst consumers, those people that do have savings and do have investment are running into another problem where their investments are about to crash and they can't get their money out. They can't get that liquidity out before. So they may just have to sit by and watch all of their money crash. And this will cause a global financial crisis.
That the private credit world could be facing a reckoning. Joining us now is Dan Rasmussen. He is founder and portfolio manager at Verdad Advisors. Dan, it's good to have you on here. It's, in the months that we've been talking about this issue as it's flared up, you can find folks that say, look, this is the front edge of a systemic credit issue the markets are going to have to deal with, all the way to the other end saying it's just a little bit of a liquidity mismatch, just kind of a logjam of some people who want out of a good asset class. Where do you come in?
This is the start of a big crisis. Rapid growth in lending never ends well. The private
Sorry,
credit
if I've been saying
market
Blackstone,
was the darling
BlackRock.
of investors for about
I've been saying Blackstone, which is the grill. Thank you. BlackRock.
15 years, about $2 trillion or so of new inflows, all went into very risky lending. This lending was generally done at 500 basis points, 500 to 650 basis points spread over SOFR. And it was done to companies, primarily leveraged buyouts that were taking on 5-6 turns of.
Okay, so a leverage buyout, what they're talking about with these loans now is that these loans were based on a certain return. And a lot of the reason that these companies, software companies, were allowed and even these private equity groups were able to grow is they did what's called a leveraged buyout, where they see an asset. This happened with Was it Bed Bath & Beyond? If it's not Bed Bath & Beyond, I apologize. It might have been like one of the craft stores or something. But in fact, let's go back to Mitt Romney. I'll give you an example of this. I think it was Circuit City. Mitt Romney, who worked in private equity, they were struggling. They needed money, and they saw Circuit City. And Circuit City was struggling financially, and they needed some liquidity invested into them. And Mitt Romney's group came in, and they were like, "Okay, we'll help you. We'll give you that equity." But what Mitt Romney actually saw is they saw that there were assets there that were very valuable. And so piece by piece, what they did, they invested that money, but then they just started selling off assets. It happened to Red Lobster again recently. And they start selling off the assets, specifically like the properties, the real estate value. And then they rent it back to the franchise owners. And that's what a leverage buyout is essentially, is that you're going in, you're buying them out, but you're only buying them out because you think there's assets there that you can sell, and that's how you make your money.
In terms of debt, those are single B rated securities. Single B rated securities have a 20% 5-year default rate according to Moody's. I expect default rates in private credit could be north of 20% over the next few years. I don't think investors are prepared for that.
Think about these investment firms, what he just said there. This is all money that's been piled in with a promised return on investment. 25% of the companies they've invested in are going to fail. It's already at 20%. He's saying it's going to 25%. I think that's a conservative estimate. I've seen numbers as high as 30 or 40%. I think what he might be missing here, and what he's careful on in CNBC, is understanding how so many of these businesses are using circular financing, meaning they're all kind of like funding each other. So when one falls, they're more connected than I think he's giving them credit for. So you're going to see investments in these tech companies just collapsing over and over. And for a lot of you, like if you're not invested, this doesn't mean a great deal to you. What it does mean, however, is unemployment. It means less tax revenue. And it means more pressure on our system that is already stressed to the max because people in this country can't afford anything. We're barely making it by.
And once you start to see liquidity flowing out, remember, liquidity flowing in concealed all these problems on the way up. But now that liquidity is flowing out, we're going to see who's swimming naked, to cite the old proverb.
If your forecast of 20% defaults is right, Dan, is there, or what is the transmission
LCD says balls. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Mechanism to other parts of the economy and or the markets?
Well, this is in some sense the great success of the regulators. After 2008, the regulators said, hey, look, we don't want these bad LBO loans on the bank balance sheets, right? So it was a regulatory intervention. That was the origin story of private credit.
Elizabeth Warren is what he's saying here. He's saying our financial markets are in a better position here because of regulation. However, one thing, again, I think he's being extra rosy here, is he's not bringing up the fact that JP Morgan and some of these historic investment firms also invested in BlackRock and in Blackstone. Yeah, there are both. So that's the other problem. The private markets are included with the public markets here because that's how the banks got around this. I know we can't make these loans, but we can invest in these companies that make these risky loans. So for some of you who aren't invested, or you may not know you're invested in private equity, you just might be invested in private equity.
Credit investors then came out and said, look, this is a great market efficiency. Those stupid regulators have forced the banks to drop this highly profitable segment. Well, it's not highly profitable. It's cyclical. It looks good when there's low default rates, but the minute you have market stress, there's huge problems.
Now, this is also why Mark Andreessen, Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, that's why they all went on to Rogan and they talked about deregulation, and they talked about getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they talked about deregulating the FEC and the SEC, because these are the markets that all of the billionaires are actually in, because they knew their returns better, and they're going to be fine because they think that Trump's going to bail them out. They all think that exactly what happened in 2008 is going to happen again when this crashes. That's why you see this push by Elon Musk and Palantir to get their hands on government contracts and to integrate themselves entirely with the government. Because now we're in a scenario when all of these companies start to fail, The companies that have integrated themselves with the government are going to say, if we fail, you guys are fucked. Like, we're running all your systems. So the government's going to bail them out. And then these other companies fail. And what happens to Palantir? They just pick up all these extra contracts because these other companies failed. This is why the people in Silicon Valley gave Donald Trump so much money. This is why Trump is taking an equity stake in their companies. They're literally, they know this is happening. They know the crash is coming. And you can watch them in real time prepare themselves and their friends for the crash so that they can benefit from it. You ask yourself, why would Trump not have a problem with like causing a global financial crisis by going to war with Iran? Because he won't be affected. That's the simple answer. He's good. Doesn't give a fuck about you. Doesn't give a fuck about me. Doesn't give a fuck about America. He's good. He's connected. He has equity shares. His kids have equity shares. They're doing it right in front of your face. They learned from 2008. What they learned from 2008 is that if you're in with the government, you're going to be safe. And there's not a lot, like, the American people are going to have no appetite for bailing out private equity. The American people aren't going to be like, we have to bail out BlackRock. Of course we're not. None of you are going to feel that way. However, when they come to you and they'll be like, hey, we're not going to bail everybody out, but Palantir, we're going to have to bail them out. NVIDIA, we have to bail NVIDIA out. Like, our entire economy revolves around NVIDIA, basically, at this point. SpaceX, SpaceX got to stay. You notice what Elon Musk is doing? He's rolling up all of his companies into one. Why do you think he's doing that? Why do you think he's buying his own companies and putting them under one umbrella that includes SpaceX? Why do you think he's trying to get a Grok contract with the government? They all know it's coming. Every last one of them know that this is coming. It's also part of their plan to control everything. That's why Illusion's probably going to like this. Some of you are probably going to hate this. But this is the most predictable and like easy to see financial collapse in the history of our country, maybe the world. They've told you what they were going to do. Like Peter Thiel, Andreessen, Musk, they've been telling you for decades what they wanted to do. And they're doing it. As Alex Karp said, we're doing it. We're doing it. You can't stop us. We're doing it. They're doing it right in front of your fucking face. And they're using your loyalty to Trump and your hatred for the left to close your eyes and cheerlead this. And it's not for you. You will get no benefit from this. The rich will get profoundly more rich. And then we're in for like some problems. Now we have to start talking about taking that back. Then it becomes a fight, the citizens of the United States versus the oligarchs who are embedded in our government. That's going to be a hell of a fight. And we're going to need you guys to wake the fuck up at some point. I wish you would stop cheerleading right now. I wish you would let that go. I wish you would recognize what's happening right in front of your face. You're not. But for some of you, if you're on the fence, start listening. You won't find an economist who doesn't think we're about to crash, by the way. The closest you'll find, I'll show you here in a little bit, is like Larry Fink. You got the people on CNBC who aren't economists, they're cheerleaders. But virtually everybody in the world who knows anything about economics is like, it's coming.
And that's what we're seeing now.
And how are you, I guess, implementing this view at this point as the sponsors of a lot of these funds, the private asset managers?
Sorry, Jennifer said intellectual dialogue feed. Thank you. Lee said a token for my daily support. Thank you very much. I guess 30 more minutes. We'll probably knock out that gift goal. I appreciate your support so far. And anything you can do to help us knock it out, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chats, that takes care of it.
Have seen their shares already, some of them cut in half. But how are you, implementing this as a trade?
Well, you've got to remember, first of all, that a lot of investors are stuck in interval funds and private credit funds that are still marked at NAV. So the public private credit firms, the BDCs, have traded down 30, 40%, right? But those interval funds are still marked at NAV.
NAV, what he's talking about is net asset valuation. So because what he's basically saying here is that these are not, the value of these companies is incorrect. It's net asset valuation. and that doesn't move with the markets because they're privately traded. And so what he's saying is that a lot of these privately traded companies, the reason nobody has, like, not everybody has caught on yet and panicked, is because they still have artificially high valuations. But when those valuations drop, it's going to affect all of the other prices, especially when you're talking about institutional investment firms like JP Morgan, because right now JP Morgan is showing their net asset value as much higher than it really is. But as these default rates come down and they adjust these net asset values, you're going to see people's 401ks start taking a hit. You're going to see like, I have one stock that I'm pretty sure, I'm watching it now, like I think it's just going to die. The only stock that I own, I looked at it this morning, like, it's fucked. I thought, like, I bought it because I thought green energy was a good thing. I've had it for years, and it's going to crash. And you're going to see that. You're going to see these people who were kind of at a tipping point. They're going to get cast aside as people pull their money out and rely on maybe safer investments. So what we're seeing now is troublesome. But because net asset values are remaining high for these non-publicly traded companies, when those get adjusted, we're going to see even more problems.
And so the first thing you're going to see is everybody that's in those interval funds trying to redeem at NAV. And as that money flows out, those outflows create their own problems, an inability to refinance, an inability to roll over new debt, liquidity issues at these funds. These problems are going to continue for a while. This asset class is nowhere near cheap. You never want to try to catch a falling knife. It's too early to even consider going long these vehicles on the premise that they're cheap. I think for now, the right answer is to use them as a hedge, highly risky credit, keep shorting it on the way down.
Jamar said, is Oslo doing a penis reveal asking for a friend? Not sure. That's not a good sign when they're saying these companies are struggling. The best thing you can do is keep shorting them, meaning they don't see an end in sight to this plummet.
Are you short? Are you shorting the falling knife?
On the BDC ends, yes.
You are. Okay. Are there any in particular that you want to talk about?
You know, I think right now we have a trade on the whole sector. I like the BDC ETF as an easy way to trade the whole sector. I think the problems are broad, and you want broad and diversified exposure.
There's your advice if you're looking for financial advice. I don't give it, but he says short the BDF ETFs or BDC ETFs. If you know what that is, great. If you don't worry about it. But if you're looking for financial advice, that's his. That seems to be pretty universal across the board. Now I want to talk about oil, because on top of that, we've got oil problems. And there doesn't seem to be an end in sight to the price of oil as well. And this is your entire economy that you live in. There's virtually nothing in your life that won't be affected by the cost of increasing oil. Even now, if we stop now, today, if the war ended today, we're still going to feel the effects of this for months on end. I apologize in advance. These are the kind of economists that I listen to. This is probably why most of you don't listen to economists, because they're boring as shit. So I'm going to try and make it understandable, or at least somewhat fun. But now let's look at the projections for oil. This is, I forget his name. I forgot to write his name down.
The biggest physical disruption I've seen. So, no, the market, I think, again, if we talk about Brent, the market is not pricing in the amount of the disruption. There is a real physical disruption. Look, Hormuz, if the closure of Hormuz, if you add it all together, it's 20 million barrels a day of oil and products together. All the other strategic petroleum reserves, Russian barrels unsanctioned, all Saudi pipelines, if you add it all up, you maybe get to 10, 11 if you're positive. So you're 9 to 10 million barrels short. That's unprecedented.
And when we look at gas,
what he's saying there is that because the Strait of Hormuz is closed and there's no opening in sight, it's daily, 9 to 10 million barrels. The longer this goes on, the bigger shortage we're going to have. And the shortage starts first in countries that can't afford to buy in bulk, because you create a bidding war. The United States will be able to get oil. Russia will be able to get oil. India, China, Pakistan, they'll be able to get oil. However, because we are reliant on imports for cheap prices, the lack of access to oil in these countries that are more poor will do one of two things. Either one, drive up the import costs, or eliminate the ability to import those things in general. And so, of course, then if you see like something that we need to import here, let's say rice for whatever reason, If you have less rice, or rice costs more to import because of the cost of fuel, and then we're also competing as other places don't produce rice, and other people compete because they want rice, that drives up the price of everything. See how this works? Like, and now go back. If MAGA, if you're still here, ask yourself, is it worth it for you to pay more for fucking everything for this war in Iran? Is that worth it? This isn't Afghanistan. It's not Iraq. It's not Gaza. It's not Libya. It's not Syria. We chose to attack a country that controls the global economy. And we don't seem to have had a very good plan for it. Unless the plan was to fuck the entire global economy, in which case we're doing awesome. 10 out of 10.
Markets, you've said they're more vulnerable than oil, of course. So why is...
I don't know, Bill Banks. Why is he attacking them? You tell me. Why is Trump attacking Iran? Because they chanted death to America? I don't know. We've looked for Trump's answers. They keep changing it. We probably won't get to it today, but Rubio just laid out totally new reasons that I've never even heard before. You know what Rubio said? Rubio said there were 4 things. Rubio said the reason we attack them is to destroy their Air Force, destroy their Navy, sever their missile launching capability, and destroy their factories. Even if we accomplish all 4 of those things, we get rid of their Air Force, Navy, their missile launching capability, and destroy their factories. Why? Why was that so important that we needed to destroy the global economy? Where was this big risk for us? That's what they're saying is their goal. So you're telling me that it's worth it for you to not be able to afford to drive your car because Iran won't have an Air Force, Navy, missile capability, and factories? All of those things, by the way, they can rebuild. Every single one of those things they can and will rebuild. So what, we'll have to do this again in 6 years again? Just every 6 years, we're going to have to blow up the world economy so that Iran doesn't have a Navy and an Air Force? This doesn't make any sense.
It's structurally more vulnerable to this crisis, and do you think Europe could face a gap?
No, he's not, Bill. He's not putting an end to it. You're just desperate to believe him.
Shock to what we saw back in 2022, or is this fundamentally a different type of crisis?
I don't think it will be 2022, because that's the difference between 22 and now is that in 22 we kind of assumed that losing the Russian molecules was a permanent thing, so they're not coming back. With Qatar, the number is very big, but we all assume it's coming back at some point. So given that, the lack of permanence, you would assume that it's less high. But yeah, gas is more vulnerable because in oil markets, we can at least talk about a few offsets. In gas, there is no offset of any size. So you lose Qatar full for as long as Hormuz is closed, and you can't really find significant other volumes to compensate for it.
So you've called this an Asian energy crisis, as opposed to the epicenter being Europe this time. Talk to us more about that.
Yeah, so that's for me the big, really one of the other large differences between 22 and now.
I appreciate that. Al said build LPG and CNG fuel stations in the U.S. and promote modifying cars to run on those. Cool, but like, how long does that infrastructure take? If we knew this, like, we should have known this was going to happen, we probably should have put that infrastructure in place. Where was the planning? Why in the world, knowing, if Trump knew that they were going to do this, why in the world would we cut renewable energy production? If we know that we're going to have an energy crisis in this country, why would we cut the only energy that we don't have to continuously pay for? Again, there doesn't seem to be an iota of planning here. This seems to be, I mean, think of who benefits from this. The oil company. Chevron. Exxon. Those are the only people that benefit here. Their prices are going to skyrocket. Their acquisition cost is not going up. American oil companies now can sell their oil at a much higher rate. Are they producing more oil? No, they're producing historic record number of barrels per day. So why is their price going up? Because elsewhere in the Strait of Hormuz, because we don't have oil flowing through there, other oil production is either non-existent or going down, and so that makes their oil more valuable. Now, if we were America first, if Donald Trump was truly an American first president, he would say, American oil companies, you cannot export your oil. You have to keep it here. Americans will pay lower prices. We will not export our oil. But he's not doing that. So he's going to hurt all these other countries. He could protect us with the type of policies that he claims to love, which is America first, but he's not going to. He's going to allow American oil companies to make record profits throughout all of this while you pay $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 a gallon in gas. The only people benefiting from what's going on in Iran right now are the billionaires and the oil folks. And we've been telling you since Trump, before he took office, that he wasn't going to do anything for you. He's not for you. He can talk about America first. He can sell you all the hats he wants. He can go down to your red states and say, I've got your back. We're all afraid of trans people. But he doesn't have your back right now. He hasn't had your back this entire presidency. His tariffs and his trade war have increased your costs. His preference for big tech companies and building AI data centers is rising the cost of your energy prices, and it's destroying jobs. We're now 13 straight months or something like that in a row where we've revised employment numbers backwards. We have negative employment numbers now. Unemployment is going up. The cost of living is going up. The cost of housing is like kind of going up, stabilizing in some places. There is not a single fucking thing Donald Trump has campaigned on to make your life better that he's actually doing. Now, there's some things he's campaigned on that he's doing, but it's not making your life better. Your life is not better for mass deportations. In fact, it's costing you a fucking fortune. But there's nothing America first or you first about this, and it's time that you guys let that shit go. I don't know how anybody can look at Donald Trump and not realize, holy fucking shit, he's doing everything for like 20 people. It's just his administration, his friends, and his billionaire friends, and he's just like, I'm going to do everything for them because my base is so loyal. They won't even try and figure it out. It's not even that they won't care that this is happening. It's happening. It's happening to you. Your life is getting more expensive, and there are direct actions that he's taken that have made your life more expensive, and you're pretending it doesn't exist. That's how far your loyalty has gotten. You are so loyal to that man, you will, at your own detriment, just cheerlead this all the way through. It's alarming on this end of it, honestly. It's very weird on this end of it to watch that happen. Chris said, what's long and hard on MAGA? Third grade. Thank you.
In 22, it was a European crisis. Europe was short oil, short gas, and it reverberated around the world. This because both oil and gas actually, because the Middle East supplies so much of the Asian demand. I mean, more than 70% of the flows out of Middle East go to Asia.
Bill, I appreciate if you say you saw what he did in his first term, so that's why you voted for him. Fine. I don't think you clearly saw what he did in his first term because he did bring our economy kind of to a halt. But he didn't do any of this shit on his first term. So the fact that you're referencing his first term is really proving my point that you don't know what the fuck you're looking at, dude. You have no fucking clue. You just like him. It's just like, oh, I love Trump. None of this happened in his first term. This is all new. So if you're saying like, oh, I saw his first term, so I'm sticking with it, you're too fucking stupid to recognize what's happening in front of you. Perhaps, again, listen more or find a dumber stream. I don't know, but this is crazy. Like, what did we go to Iran and get the Strait of Hormuz shut? Was Trump pushing AI data centers his first term? No, none of that stuff happened.
The first shortages will be in Asia. So you kind of invert it, and you see it, because I think in Asian markets you start seeing demand destruction, demand reductions. This crisis will also come into Europe. It's going to take a little bit longer because the heart of the shortages, they will start in Asia because they're more dependent on the Middle Eastern barrels than Europe are.
So you're already seeing demand destruction, reduced flights as a result of this conflict. I mean, how much further does that demand need to fall in order to stabilize the market somewhat?
Oh, a lot.
Okay, so if you look at where we get our stuff from, the country we import the most from is Mexico. Then it's Canada. And that's going to be a little bit slower to be affected by this. But number 3 is China. This is going to hit those Asian markets. And when he says it's going to hit those Asian markets, it's doing exactly what we talked about. Like their oil shortages will drive up the cost of imported goods. Their ability to create goods, to ship goods, to process goods, all of those input costs are going to go up. So China, which gives us, again, I think like 9% of our imports, those prices are going to go up. Then it's Taiwan, then it's Vietnam. So our import costs are going to go up in this country. I mean, you can look at what you consume, what you can get rid of, and what you can't get rid of. But for businesses, a lot of what we import is coming from China, from Taiwan, from Vietnam. Those costs will all go up.
So we basically need to lose the, if nothing changes, that's of course the assumption in this question. If nothing changes, you need to take out probably 10 million barrels a day, something like that. Maybe 9, maybe 11. I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, COVID was 20, just to give you a number. That's when we got there. But
that's what the whole world shut down. COVID was 20. So half of that for just this war. Natalie said, we have record high LNG exports hurting Americans. Thank you. That's a good point. Liquefied natural gas, we're exporting it out. It's not America first. We're going to let these LNG people sell all of their natural gas at high prices. Why? Why don't they care about America? We gave them a tax break. You guys advocated, MAGA. You said we better give these LNG and these gas companies a tax break because they're going to bring down the cost of oil. When the fuck is that going to happen? When's natural gas coming down? Why'd you give them a tax break? What was the point of that? So they get record low taxes. They get gifts from the government. And what do we get in return for our government money? We get higher prices. Terrific. Ginger said, sorry, listening on delay. That's all right. Oh, he defaulted the cognitive test, SW and LTC.
It's a different story. Yeah, look, and what is interesting in this market is that we focus a lot on Brent prices, which is fair enough. For demand destruction,
Amber said we've lost 11 to 13 major U.S. bases in the region. If we can't secure our own bases from being hit by Iran, how can we control anything? We are not and cannot.
Product prices. Because the users of the products are the ones who are going to shut in demand. So if you look at jet prices, they're super high, so people stop flying. Gasoline or gas oil prices are really high, so it becomes harder to truck and to do manufacturing. So these prices are already at levels where you start to see demand destruction. But we need significantly more. So that's also why most forecasts would say, if we stay out for months, we have to price even higher than where we are already today. And I think that makes sense.
So two quick questions then before we go.
So what are we at oil today? Is over $100. And he's saying, like, if we're projecting that out months, which is how they set oil prices, we have to raise it. And we're starting to see numbers like 125, 150, 175 not being out of the question.
You see if this continues, where do you price it? What's the highest you think it could go? And also, do you think that we're looking at some kind of a temporary?
That's a good point. Illusion said oil infrastructure being hit doesn't bounce back. Yeah, and we're hitting Israel is knocking out oil infrastructure. Trump now is talking about knocking out oil infrastructure. That takes a long time to rebuild. It's 116. Thanks, Kelly.
Like here, if that drags on, or is this going to have permanent damage, permanent changes now to the markets? Things don't just go back to normal. How do you see that?
Yeah, so let me do the last one first. So that's the more longer term view. Look, when this crisis has resolved, and let's assume we've got the oil flows back, I think there's a few permanent changes. One is you will have seen probably a pretty long period of expensive prices, of high prices. That means people dependent on both oil and gas, or LNG and oil.
Thanks, Jessica and Denise.
They'll find alternatives. So I think demand destruction, part of it comes back, part of it will be structural. So your demand forecast is probably a bit less optimistic than it was before. On oil and probably on gas as well, if you're an importer, the one way I think you protect yourself against the next crisis, wherever it's going to come from, is by building higher stocks. So I think countries are going to try to stock up to a higher extent. In gas it's not happening at all. But building higher strategic stocks, which is again demand for the product you want to stock. So that's bullish. So I think that's two longer-term bullish things. Where we can go, look, physically we've already priced 170. So if this stays, we can easily go there. I've seen 200. We could go to these levels. I need it out for quite a while longer. We could go there. That should probably that should probably be enough if you kind of look at how much demand you would then start to really take out of the system.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me.
And I hate to be a downer, but they're not thinking about you. Brandy, it came through. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. I don't know why it bounced you out, but I see it on my end. It came through. I appreciate that. 170 to 200's knucking futs. What's the average gas price right now? Like 4 something, right? Let's just say, and we're at 116, so we go to 2. I mean, we're talking about $8, $9 gas. How many of you can afford $8 or $9 gas? You don't feel that way at all, Andre? I don't feel that way. It must suck to not suck Donald Trump's dick and be happy about it every day. This is not for you. This is not America first. Here's Larry Fink, who he's the BlackRock CEO. Now, he is far more optimistic than most, and he needs to be optimistic because his fund depends on it. But even folks like Larry Fink are begging the president to reconsider. Think about what you're doing here.
A year from now, oil at $40 a barrel. I could see it above $150 a barrel. Well, we have 2 very extreme outcomes. And in my conversations throughout the world with the U.S. government, all that, to me, everybody has to recognize there's not going to be an outcome that's somewhere in the middle. It's going to either be 2 extremes. Is Iran a country that can be accepted by the international community? Can Iran be a country that participates in the world again? And if that outcome occurred, then you could have the Iranian oil back into the marketplace, alongside the growth of the Venezuelan oil, and you could paint a picture where oil prices could be lower than they were prior to the Iranian war. If there's a cessation of war, and yet Iran remains a threat to trade, a threat to the Straits of Hormuz, then I would argue that we could have years of.
I'd love them to explain a scenario where this ends tomorrow and Iran isn't a threat to the global supply of oil. How could Iran not be a threat to the global supply of oil? They know that they can't trust anybody. They know that the United States or Israel can strike at any time. And their only real leverage is pretty big leverage, that they know they can control the flow of oil. So why would Iran give that up? If Iran gives up the control over the flow of oil, what's to stop Israel and the United States from completely obliterating them? Of course they're not going to do that. That's why I said Larry Fink here is a little rosy. What's the scenario here that he's painting? Donald Trump said he and Iran will control the Strait of Hormuz, which was crazy because of course he can't. It would be the United States, but he views everything through his own lens. I don't see a scenario that he's laying out here where people aren't going to be threatened by Iran. No leadership. It doesn't matter who you what regime change you do. Iran is always going to feel insecure. They're always going to want to maintain the only thing that they really have as leverage. None of that makes any sense to me for Larry Fink. Larry Fink's being way too hopeful.
Above $100, closer to $150 oil.
What happens to the global economy if that happens?
Amy Lynn said, time for Trump to shut down the country, or time for Trump to shut the country down again. That way gas prices can go back down, work from home time. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you might have to do that, do COVID era stuff.
How do we see it?
We'll have global recession.
The US is essentially energy independent. Should other countries, including...
We are not energy independent. That's crazy. We're not. That was another lie sold. We could potentially be energy independent, but we're not. We export so much. We import oil. We are not energy independent.
In the UK, maximize their energy resources, including their oil and gas reserves.
You need to use what you have to provide more abundance in your country. In the UK, you have some solar, you have some wind, you do have hydrocarbons. To me, it is about being pragmatic.
But on oil and gas, use what you've got is the message.
Use what you have. Unquestionably, but also aggressively move towards alternatives.
Look, somebody keeps saying he's a demon. He's absolutely a demon. None of this is going to happen. What he's talking about is so remarkably removed from reality. He's trying to say like, oh, we'll be all right. We're energy independent. Use what you've got, and that's how we'll get through this recession. Okay, but we're not going to. You think Trump's going to tell these oil companies that they can't sell their oil at record profits all around the world? No. This is wild. Of course not. That's not. Nobody has even floated that idea. I'm not even sure if it's constitutional. I'm not even sure if you can do that.
Sources too.
It all feels a bit 2007, surging energy prices. We're seeing some cracks in the financial system, particularly in private credit. Are those little tremors, before an earthquake? Does this feel very 2007 to you?
I don't see any similarities at all. Zero.
That's a fucking lie. He's absolutely fucking lying. We explained it. 2007, what happened is you had collateralized debt obligations or loan obligations that were risky loans, and they were over leveraged. People had bet on them, and it brought down the entire world economy. Now we have collateralized loan obligations, and everybody's 401ks and investments are tied up into them, and the default rate is significantly higher. For the recession in 2008, we needed default rates around like 5% in order for the entire thing to blow up. We were talking about default rates at 20% in these collateralized loan obligations. Now, they don't have the reach that the mortgages did, but their reach is big enough that when we hit 25%, we're going to run into the same problem. And what we didn't have in 2007 at the same time is a war with a country that controls global oil prices. So yeah, maybe you don't see any similarities because the year is different or because we're not at war with Iran, but it's the exact same structure. You have these collateralized obligations that are defaulting at historic rates, and on top of that, now we also have a war with somebody who can control oil prices. This is a fucking lie. Larry Fink's a piece of shit. Larry Fink is literally a demon, but Larry Fink isn't dumb. This is a lie.
2007 was based on hidden leverage, just gigantic leverage balance sheets.
Yeah.
This is not a leverage balance sheet problem.
No, Andre, I don't think I know better than the BlackRock CEO. I'm telling you he's lying. Are you believing the BlackRock CEO? What kind of piece of I would always trust Larry Fink. He's talking about leverage. Now, Andre, you don't know what leverage is, but I'll tell you about leverage. He's saying that what happened is that these banks had all this leverage, and the leverage being the bets against the housing market. And those were collateralized debt obligations, meaning the loans that were all packaged together for mortgages were what was being bet against. The difference is in 2008, those mortgages were still worth something. They never went to zero because they were homes. They have value. There's real value there. The collateral now for these loan obligations that we have in 2026, the collateral is stock. Stock goes to zero. Companies liquidate. Companies can lose their value overnight, 100% of their value overnight. Unlike 2008, the collateral being used can go to zero. And again, the collateral in 2008, the default rate, meaning those bonds that were going belly up, was 5%. So 95% of these loans were not going belly up, but 5% were. Now it's 20%. If you could do math, Andre, that's 4 times. That's 4x the default rate. Larry Fink's not dumb. I'm not arguing with Larry Fink. Larry Fink thinks exactly what I think. He's lying to you. And the only reason you're siding with him is because you know I'm a progressive and you don't want me to be right. But I guarantee, you know how I know he's fucking lying? Because you know what he's doing? He's liquidating his positions. BlackRock has restricted withdrawals, and they are liquidating their positions right now. They are selling off all of their positions. That's what JP Morgan did. That's what, who was the first one that went down? Remind me, who's the first one that went down in the housing recession? If anybody remembers it. So when you look, if you go watch The Big Short, you can remember there's this time in The Big Short where all these investors, Steve Baum, which is Steve Carell's character, or Mark Baum, Steve Carell's character, Brad Pitt, Christian Bale, all these characters are calling the banks over and over, and they're like, hey, how is it that the default rates are going down, but the value of these mortgage bonds is staying the same? That doesn't make sense. We have an insurance bond. The value is dropping, but you're saying that the bond is still worth the same, even though the very thing in the bond is dropping. And the banks are like, I don't know. And eventually they call Christian Bale, and they're like, hey, we're ready to discuss the pricing on your swaps. And he goes, I think what you meant to say is you've secured a net short position. So these banks, they all went out publicly. Alan Greenspan was like the spokesperson, the smart money or mad money guy. They all went out publicly and they said, this is bullshit. Everybody's lying. Everything's fine. And the reason they said everything was fine is so they could keep the value of their swaps and they could sell them to other banks. They sold them off to Credit Suisse, to Deutsche Bank. They sold them all over the world. And that's what caused a global meltdown. What the fuck do you think Larry Fink is doing right now? He's unloading all of these. He's unloading all of these bad investments. You can go look it up. Bear Stearns is who you were thinking of. Thank you. He's unloading these. He's selling them all over the world. So what Larry Fink is doing right now is exactly what Alan Greenspan did in 2008. He's like, no. This is not. It's not a big deal. Meanwhile, go look at his books. Go look at what they're doing. They're unloading all of their debt, all of their bad debt, as much as they possibly can. They're unloading, and they're going to get it off the books until they hit a net short position, which means they're going to lose money, but they're also going to make money, and that they'll walk out of this unscathed while everybody else gets fucked. Imagine being a human being, chat, right now that loves Donald Trump so much and hates that I don't like Donald Trump so much that they are now like, I can't believe you don't believe Larry Fink. I can't believe you're not listening to BlackRock. They know better. Let's just listen to BlackRock.
And it was the leverage that was the foundation of the fall of 2008.
We've seen trillions of dollars pumped into AI. When Jimmy Dimon did an interview.
Good question. Bill Smith, how is he making people buy them? That's a good question. Thank you for that question. Same way JP Morgan did. They're setting it, like they're their investments, right? And people rely on people like Larry Fink. Investors rely on Larry Fink. They think he's a genius. All of these people, and you need to remember this with financial investing, their default state of mind is up. It's going to go up. It's safe. So if somebody like Larry Fink is saying these are safe investments, we're just selling some of these off, and they have to do it strategically. If they sell it off all at once, it creates panic. So they're doing it slowly. And the people that they're selling to, they've bought stuff from Larry Fink forever. So they think it's safe. Larry Fink's telling you, look, I'm looking at the value of these. The value's fine. Like, look, nobody else is dropping the value. Nobody's even shorting these positions. Meanwhile, we're starting to see more and more short positions. That's why they're starting to panic. And that's why Larry Fink went on the BBC to say this, to stop the panic. Go right now. Go look if you're on YouTube or Twitter. Like type in private equity on YouTube, and it's going to be thousands of videos of economists telling you how private equity is fucked right now. So that's how he's selling. And you know what? He's not selling it at full value. He's selling it at 90%, 85%, 80%. They're selling it off at discounted rates right now. And what they're telling these people is like, yeah, it's taken a dip. That's why we're unloading it. But like, this is the floor. We're not going to see a dip anywhere past this. Like, they're all greedy, and they all they're like people in these type of industries, they're always the last people to see it coming. That's why The Big Short's such an important movie. I think it's one of the most important movies ever made, is it shows that all the smartest people in the room, allegedly the smartest people in the room, all the people that we listened to were wrong. And who was right? A bunch of people that everybody called crazy. It's Steve Eisen is his actual name. You can go watch. He has a podcast now, which is brilliant. It's the guy that Steve Carell played and named Mark Baum, but his real name's Steve Eisen, and he'll tell you about it. But like, there are people that make a lot of money in the markets when times are good, and then there are people who recognize weaknesses in the markets, and that's where they make their money. And the people who recognize weakness right now are all being very loud that here it comes. And Larry Fink is just providing cover.
The BBC recently, he said a lot of that money might end up wasted. Are we in a bubble? Will a lot of that money be wasted? What do you make of that?
I do not believe we have a bubble at all.
It's so
that being
stupid.
said, could we have 1 or 2 failures in AI? Sure. I'm fine with that. Okay.
We already have like 50 failures in AI. The bubble, like, there's obviously a bubble. This is such a fucking lie.
That's market mechanisms. I believe there's a race for technology dominance. I believe if we do not invest more, China wins.
Guys, invest more money, he says. They don't have, you know why he's saying that? They don't have any money. There's no liquidity. Nobody's investing in them anymore, and they need money to keep this Ponzi scheme going. Don't believe Larry Fink ever is a good rule of thumb. OCD said Andre in the YouTube chat needs a bottle and a nap, or just like a Econ 101 education that would help. Yeah, Jen, I'm done. Let's see. Let me read through these real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Illusion said oil infrastructure being hit doesn't bounce back. Got that. Thank you, Maggie Lou, for the Sunday, for sending a Sunday. I appreciate that. I think I got all of them. Jen, am I missing any?
I don't think so.
Oh, Bree, I'm working on it. Fuck. Bree, DM me, Bree. Maybe you and I can figure something out. Not like that. Not like that. DM me on Discord, Bree, and we'll figure out a way to get that done. All right, Jen, any last words?
Maybe just like that.
No, Jen, not those words. No.
Oh, I mean, you asked if I had any other words.
Yeah, I thought any other last words.
No, and just, did we hit the goal?
Probably. I'm not sure. I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, no, nothing left for me.
Okay. All right, everybody. We will see you tomorrow morning and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. to 1 Pacific Standard Time, right here, wherever you were watching today. Thank you for joining us. Replays are always available on Twitch and YouTube, as well as Spotify, so you can catch them there. If you come across our content any other place, make sure if you're wherever you're watching today that you're subscribed. We do have paid memberships available as well on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, and that gets you into our members only events. This coming Monday we will have another movie night. Haven't picked the movie yet, but we'll announce that at some point this week, and that takes place in the Discord. It's a really fun time, so if you want to help support us and be a member, any level of membership gets you into movie night every other Monday. And until I see you tomorrow, take care of yourselves. Go outside, touch grass if you can't touch grass, smoke grass if you can't smoke grass. Best of luck to all of you. Drink water, say nice things about yourself, be nice to your friends and family, stay cute and cool, and have a great summer.